Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 41. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined by the power of Zoom by Cody Saftic. Coming off the heels of UFC Vegas 40, Godnez shit in the apple pie. Bellator more than took up or made up for it. If you were following Cody's parlays, you came out well ahead this past weekend. But another offering, a 13-fight offering. It's good times all around, Cody. How are you doing?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, the last three cards have been a mixture of everything. The UFC had the apple pie shit with Godinez, and I did really struggle to find someone to parlay at the top with Meno Fioro, but you warned me, and I was ignorant. I didn't take the advice, so you could have saved me there. Then the Bellator, we went 11 for 12 overall, but we hit all the way up to 10-fight parlays, so super happy with that. But then last night's Contender Series, that's a more appropriate, example of what we're looking to do. The rest is just extra. Is we went out, we hit two of the three props. One of them was a plus 165. The props came out profitable. We ended up hitting the top ticket. It was a minus 165 after you got steamed on the top three favorites. And unfortunately, Johnny Parsons, had I just swipped that, not had him on the PRP instead of Kolev, who, pulled the Kolev, I suppose. Well, actually, it wasn't so much that. It was his opponent was just known to get taken down and come back. But that's a more appropriate. You grind out that profit. You grind out that profit. And you hope to hit the big one. Mm-hmm. And this card this week, Paul, I feel a lot better about it. And I don't feel good about the Bellator card, right? It's in Russia. Somebody's taking a dive. And it is going to be a greasy proposition. Whereas this card, a couple spots I do actually like.
Yeah, somebody's definitely taking the dive in Mother Russia. These things just happen in MMA. You just have to be prepared for it. Something fishy is going on in Moscow. I can tell you that much. And it will usually be a Russian winning. So make sure, if you think that the Russian is too big of a favorite, it's probably there's something stinky about that apple pie. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, we're focusing on UFC here. We'll talk a little bit about Bellator at the end of the show. We got Marvin Vettori taking on Paulo Costa, minus 145 Vettori, plus 125 Costa. Who you got here, bud?
So I feel like I want to go with Marvin Vettori, but we're going to get a much better price on him live after he likely drops the first round and may potentially drop the first two rounds. But then I expect Marvin Vettori to be able to take over 3, 4, 5. Hopefully he's not down 0-2, but it's going to be dicey early because Paulo Costa, it's a tale of two Paulo Costas. The guy that fought Yoel Romero had pressure unlike you've ever seen in the middleweight division. What are you supposed to do to back this guy up? All he did was march down Yoel Romero. All he did was landing thudding combinations, dropped him, got dropped, got back up, and got right back in his face. It's a tremendous performance. Good fight, great fight, but he gasses pretty hard after the second round. And in the third round, Yoel, as tired as he is, because Yoel's not exactly known to be a cardio machine himself, Paulo's hands are low. He gets busted up. Nose gets busted. Takes a tremendous amount of damage in the third round. And then round ends. Paulo's up 2-0 on the judges' scorecards. He gets the unanimous decision. The very next fight against Israel Adesanya, a lot of people, unfortunately, how stupid is this? Myself included.
Me too.
Bet Paulo Costa. I know. It's so stupid. Because I thought he was going to pressure him. I thought he was going to get in his face. I thought he was going to march him backwards. Kelvin Gastelum, a 5'9" welterweight, was able to march this guy backwards, put him on his back foot, even dropped him with a head kick, wobbled him with a head kick. Why can't Paulo Costa do the same thing? But sometimes what happens is you engage in these huge wars, you take a ton of damage, and on top of that, he gets so gassed out in the third round from pressuring so much that the very next fight's like, yeah, you know what? Not only am I going to drink a bottle of wine the night before the fight, I'm also not going to pressure this guy because it's going to tire me out. He's got 5 rounds to fight. First time he's ever been in a 5-round fight. Knows he can't even fight 3, so he paces him. And the result, laughable. That was a god-awful performance against Israel Adesanya. But we will give him a slight pass because it's Israel Adesanya. Fair enough. That gives you back a look at his UFC career, right? Gareth McClellan, first-round finish. Oluwele Bombase, second-round finish. Johnny Hendricks, second-round finish. Uriah Hall, second-round finish. Yoel Romero went the distance, gassed out hard going into the third. First time he'd been in the third. And then the Israel Adesanya fight, a second-round finish again. So Marvin's cast iron. No one's ever knocked out Marvin. Yeah. Not only has Marvin never been knocked out, Marvin's never been knocked down. And if you thought Izzy pieced up Costa pretty bad, like Marvin took all of his best shots for 25 minutes and stood the test of time. He's only 28 years old. He's continuously getting better. People say how does Paulo Costa pass a drug test? How does Marvin Vettori pass one, right? So that edge is going to be nullified both ways. And then when you look at Marvin, and I've been backing this kid for a while now, but the Jack Hermanson fight, it was his first time being in a 5-rounder. People are like, well, how's he going to respond to that? Wins the first 3, drops the 4th. Actually, sorry, wins the first 2, drops the 3rd. Comes back and wins 4th and 5th. Good. Cardio looked good. Kevin Holland fight, 5 rounds again, goes all 5 rounds. I didn't think he looked great in that fight. He took the easy path, which is, I guess, good. We bet on him, whatever. Take the easy path. He didn't look great in that fight, but it went 25 minutes. And then his last fight against Izzy went 25 minutes. The guy's 9 of his last 10 fights have gone to decision, including his last 3, which were all 5-rounders. So I'm not worried about Marvin fighting 5 rounds, and not really worried about Marvin's durability. Whereas Paulo, I'm worried about a lot of things. He's been off for a year. He's coming off a humiliating defeat, and if he can't pressure for 25 minutes and he can't hang back for 15, bad proposition. But I think he's still live in the first round. He still probably does win the first round, and then Marvin gets his ass in gear. Marvin's also not a really fast starter in most fights, so you'll get a better live odd here. But the official pick will be Marvin Vettori on the -145. I'm just thinking you'll either get -110 or maybe like a slight plus money tag if he drops the first round. And if he gets knocked out in the first round, because it's MMA, Paul. MMA, Paul. Well, at least you're covered on that side of things, right?
Yeah, that all kind of makes sense. My initial lean before listening to you there was I was thinking Costa, because I'm just not entirely sure that Marvin can just out-grapple him early on at least. But if he gets tired round 3, then Marvin's going to be able to get those takedowns and keep himself out of the danger zone. You're right about Marvin having great durability, great chin, able to take an absurd amount of punishment from Israel Adesanya. Paulo's scary. Paulo hits hard enough that he could knock out any man if he lands the clean, perfect punch. But, plus 125 or even plus 225 by knockout. I mean, if you were going to bet Costa, I think you go the knockout route at plus 225. But I think you're onto something. Probably best to wait for live markets here. We haven't seen any reason to believe that Costa can go 5 rounds. What does he look like in round 4? We have no idea. So, probably a better one to bet live. Make sure Vettori's head doesn't get knocked clean off and go from there. A lot of what you said made sense. Moving on down the card, we got Grant Dawson taking on Ricky Glenn. Grant Dawson -365, Ricky Glenn plus 280. This line seems very, very steep as far as I'm concerned. Grant Dawson's always kind of concerned me. There was like a bunch of, he does like jump, he did like in one fight, I forget which one now off the top of my head, but he was doing like a bunch of like jumping knees and stuff like that, leaving himself very, very vulnerable. I don't think Ricky Glenn is the world's biggest power puncher by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, he is coming off of a great performance where he just absolutely deaded Joaquin Silva. But I'm concerned. Like Ricky Glenn's always, I find him to be a bit of a conundrum because, like, when he took on Gavin Tucker way back when, I didn't really think that he was going to be able to do what he did, which is just absolutely dominate in the grappling exchanges. If Grant Dawson can't control and just win every single exchange in the grappling exchanges here, I don't really like what I see from him on the feet. Obviously, he's got James Krause in his corner. He's going to have a good game plan coming into this fight. But for me right now, I kind of feel like it's dog or pass. I don't really want to lay the -365 on Grant Dawson. What's your take here?
Yeah, so I can kind of agree in a lot of senses is that, geez, if this is a striking battle, I don't think people are definitely overlooking the fact that Rick Glenn probably has a significant striking advantage in this fight. What it's going to come down to is the takedown defense. And the other thing with Rick Glenn is the guy had been off for 3 years, had a major hip surgery, left his gym, relocated to Iowa, got a job as a plumber, and then came out of complete obscurity to take a fight with Joaquin Silva. How many question marks does this guy got? We need some answers here, Paul. And he didn't actually answer any of them.
No.
He just knocked out Joaquin Silva
37
in 37 seconds.
Too quick.
And Joaquin Silva can't take a punch. That is something we also know.
Mm-hmm.
So with Rick, it's like, well, did his takedown defense get any better? Is his cardio any better? Is his striking better over a prolonged period of time? Or did the game somewhat go by? Because his fights prior to that, Joaquim Silva's also cut, by the way. Kevin Aguilar, I believe he's cut. He might be clinging on to a job. Dennis Bermudez is cut. Miles Jury's cut. Gavin Tucker's pretty good. Evan Dunham's retired, and Felipe Nova is released from the promotion. So none of the guys that he was fighting back in the day are still cutting it, other than Gavin Tucker. And that was a life-changing beating. I can't take that win away from him. I mean, he almost killed a guy in the UFC. They should have stopped that fight 3 times over. We'll talk about the Alpar finish later over Jesse Jess, but like, this is times 3. Like, this guy put an absolute beating, but there's just not enough in the in-between. Here's what we can look at. His first loss in the UFC, Evan Dunham, it was because the takedown defense let him down, right? Even back in the day, he was fighting Lance Palmer in World Series of Fighting. Takedown defense lets him down. The fight with Miles Jury, takedown defense lets him down. Gives up the 2 takedowns, unable to get off his back, gets grinded out by Miles Jury. Not a great wrestler. Dennis Bermudez, he wins a split decision, but he gives up 6 takedowns. It's an issue of his. When you see his frame, he's not exactly the most physically strong guy, but he's a long, lanky striker. He's a precision striker. He's a good counter puncher. I'm not taking anything away from him, but the way you beat those guys is just to put an old-fashioned grinding on them, which obviously Joaquim Silva wasn't going to do. Grant Dawson, meanwhile, I'll tell you why I'm worried, man. You watch back that Leonardo Santos fight. He gets outstruck in the first round, handedly, by Leo Santos. The second round, he outstrikes Leo Santos, but he gets taken down. And so it could also be a Leo Santos round. And then James Krause had to come out 2 weeks ago and apologize because, I gave Tim Elliott bad advice. I told him I was up 2-0. Why does this guy even feel the need to apologize? But he apologizes. And then last week, you see with Aspen Ladd's corner, Jim West, it's like, oh man, what a piece of shit. How was you talking to her, right? Go back and watch.
That was so ridiculous. I can't believe people who were saying that. You did it. You don't understand.
You know what makes it more ridiculous?
Tough love in sports, man. Like, sometimes your coach has to say that you aren't doing great to try to motivate you to do better, to change your game. I thought everything that he was doing in the corner was like perfect. I even said it on Twitter, and then I was like, not shocked, because people I
disagree with that.
People are
slightly, but
that's because it's your baby. You probably felt bad for her.
No, that's not why. I'll tell you why I disagree with the statement. Right? It wasn't how he was talking to her. Didn't have a problem with that, because that's how you would talk to a male athlete. There'd be no problem. It's what he was telling her was there was nothing there. There's no substance. It wasn't like, this is how you're going to get her to the ground. This is how you're going to set up your strikes. It was just like, you need to wake up and do more. You need to wake up and do more. It's like, all right, but
he's saying what? That you need to throw more than one strike to break into the clinch. Like, you can't just throw jabs and expect to get down to the hips. That's essentially what he was saying.
That's fair, right? So what I'm saying is that you got Krause is a great coach. He's apologizing because he gave bad advice, and you got this guy. Was he too tough? All I'm saying is go back and watch Grant Dawson, Leo Santos, specifically right after round 2, really leading up to the start of round 3, the minute on the in between, and he's just like, look at me. He like lifts his head up. He gets in his face. Look at me. He's like, you might be down 0-2. He's like, it could be 1-1, but let's not think about that. It's 0-2. Screw the double leg takedowns. He's too strong on the double leg. This guy's strong on those. You need to switch to the single. He's like, set up your shots. Like, he walks him through it. And then Grant Dawson slouches his head forward. He lifts his head. Look at me. And then Grant Dawson, do you want water? And the last thing Dawson says as he goes out is, he's like, you're like, yeah, yes, coach. Yes, coach. Like, he's right back in it. Like, yes, coach. And what does he go do? He goes out there. He has his best round of the fight, and he goes out and he gets a finish. Finish with like 3 seconds. Thank God, because I didn't know how they were going to score it on the judges' scorecards. I had a 1-1 going into the third. It could have been 2-0 Santos, though. But why this fight worries me is, yes, we've seen him vulnerable in those striking exchanges. But the same thing won him this fight that is going to win him the Rick Glenn fight. So the same thing that won the Santos fight is going to win the Rick Glenn fight. It's that ability to, even if you have a bad first round, get hit a few times, put the grind on him, man. Put the grind on. This kid comes from a decent wrestling background, wrestled well in high school, didn't really wrestle long in college, but you see him in the UFC. It's more of it's a MMA style of wrestling. Most of his takedown attempts come off the cage. The fact that he was repeatedly shooting takedowns on Leo Santos. Who wants to go to the ground with Leo Santos?
That's true.
No, this kid knew, I'm going to get him on the ground, and when I do, watch out. And when he did get him to the ground, he battered him, Paul. I mean, he looked good on the ground. So the thing with Rick Glenn is he is a submission guy, but throwing up arm bars and triangles, probably not going to get the job done 2021 against a guy like Grant Dawson. And Dawson will eventually get the grind going. We know he can fight 15 minutes. We know he's got good cardio. He's 27 years old, 27 years old, only getting better. And of course, he does got James Krause in his corner, understands his athlete, understands his man, and coming off the Tim Elliott thing, don't want close rounds. Let's put it on this kid and let's break him down. So with Rick Glenn, all he's got is the 37-second knockout since he's come back. I got to revert back to too many unknowns. And with Grant Dawson, I've never bet against this kid once in the UFC. He's usually a big favorite. So, and this is another case of he is a big favorite, but he fights for my dollar. And those are the kind of guys that I want to back day in, day out.
That seems fair enough. I'm just scared by the price, but
it's not a good price.
But yeah, Ricky, you're right. 37 seconds. Flash knockout. Do we really know that he's like a brand new man? Probably not. All right, moving on down.
Well, sorry. Last thing I want to throw on, because that you're very funny you mentioned that. So these were his fights prior to that: Dunham decision, Nover decision, Gavin Tucker decision, Miles Jury decision, Dennis Bermudez decision, Kevin Aguilar decision, and he ices a guy in 37 seconds. It's the first time he's ever knocked out a guy in the UFC. First time any of his fights ended, and now he's reinvented. Like, I'm going towards fluke, right? To me, that screams like, Gianni the Greek would be like, I don't know. He'd say something about some. Let's just move on. But he'd say something about how the number. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going.
The regression. There's a regression.
The
There's a
regression
regression to the mean.
shows.
The regression to the mean. I'm fine. A lot of people hate on John. I don't really.
I don't mind him, dude.
I don't really worry about what anybody else is doing these days. I used to make fun of him a whole bunch on Twitter, but I don't.
If you watch Contenders every week, he gives his picks, so it's pretty easy to track, and the guy makes money. So who cares what his process is? And as far as his delivery, I like him. He's a personality of the game, but in this game, the bigger you get, the more exposure you get. Just somebody don't like you. The more people that see you, more people that don't like you. He's got the best gig. Who wouldn't want his gig, right? So there's going to obviously be people that don't like the guy, but he's just an added element to a Contender Street show. That's what makes Contender.
He talks about the wise guy, but he's got the he talks about the wise guys, but he's got the voice of the wise guy.
You're right. He's a wise guy.
He's a wise guy.
Sharp money, baby.
Wise guy. All right, moving on down. We got Jessica Rose Clark taking on Joselyne Edwards, minus 145 Clark, plus 125 Edwards. I mean, rewatching the Jessica Rose Clark fight against Alpar, I thought she did Alpar was wrestle or bust completely in that fight. And I thought Jessica Rose Clark did pretty good at, her defensive wrestling throughout it. And then as the fight went on, cardio held up. And I mean, Chris Taioni definitely bet the over because that fight was really, really tough to watch for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Obviously, there was the knee that they said that she was down, but obviously she wasn't. And then they restarted. This girl's got blood all over her face. She's clearly concussed. Jessica Rose Clark gets the job done after the over 2.5 cashes for Chris and his cronies. But So yeah, it's I think that the defensive wrestling seems to check out. The way to beat Joselyne Edwards, what Carol Rose, rewatched that fight. Carol Rose is a good wrestler, good all-around martial artist for sure. Edwards had no answer for the takedowns whatsoever. And on top of that, she was taken down in her UFC debut against Wu Yinan. She ended up winning that fight by decision. But it's she got taken down there. I think the takedown defense is massively questionable. The path to victory for Jessica Rose Clark is the wrestling. And I was about to bet it. And then I remember I was making fun of people who have face tats on Twitter. Because logically, the path to victory, and I even see on her Twitter, she's posting her doing wrestling drills and stuff like that for this fight. Just the logical way to win this fight is get the takedown, get top control. You seem very, very strong in those exchanges. The opponent you're taking on doesn't seem to have much resistance to that type of game plan. But then the face tat, Cody. Face tat leads me to believe she's going to just try to get into a striking match in this fight. And I don't know. I need you to talk some sense into me because I think the path is completely there for Jessica Rose Clark to get the job done here. Wrestle. Top control, hold it, a little bit of ground and pound, maintain position. It should be hers all day. And I think what I saw in the Alpar fight leads me to believe that she's really made some real strides in that part of her game. I'm only half joking about the face tat thing. And she's 33. She seems like she's, she's in a better place than she was like when she first entered the UFC mentality. Maybe I'm just reading into that, but it seems that way from what I see on social media and stuff like that. Pick is Jessica Rose Clark. I think it should be pretty easy, but I'm a little bit scared that if she doesn't shoot for takedowns, then what?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I kind of see this one more as a dog or pass. Like,
Really?
I wouldn't mind even just hitting the straight pass on it. Or if you need underdogs on this card, potentially on a Joselyne Edwards. I agree 100% with what you're saying. The path of victory is 100% laid out. Joselyne Edwards has had 2 fights in the UFC. The Wu Yanan fight, she got taken down a bunch of times and easily. But she's taking on a limited opponent. She gets back up. The striking's certainly there. It's not refined. It's not polished. I'd like to see a little more. But she still lands like 88 significant strikes. Pushes a decent enough pace. And then you see that fight with Carl Rosa. Well, Carl Rosa is a top 5, but certainly a top 10 level talent. Someone who's doing very excellent in the UFC. And still, she gives up the takedowns, but she defends herself. She does okay in the stand-up department. It's just the takedown defense. Now, with Jess Rose Clark, could she take the path of victory? Certainly she could, but she's never scored more than 2 takedowns in any of her UFC fights. Beyond that, the Paney Kianzad fight. Why would you want to strike with Paney Kianzad, right? And she's getting doubled up. She's getting beat to the punch. She's clearly losing these rounds, and she attempts 2 takedowns whole fight. So it wasn't part of her game plan. Even the Sarah Alpar fight, a lot of it was counter wrestling. Alpar's trying to wrestle you, but she wanted to keep the fight standing, and she wanted to work her striking. The fights that she does have takedowns in are over Bec Rawlings, where she won a split decision. Bec Rawlings is a strawweight fighter at her best. I know she fights at flyweight now. Paige Van Zandt. Paige Van Zandt is a strawweight fighter who now just happens to fight at flyweight, but they're not, these are smaller women, right? Mm-hmm. But then she's supposed to fight Andrea Lee. Pulls out day before, day of, due to complications due to a weight cut. So the UFC's like, no more 125 for you, going up to 135. And at 135 is where I don't wonder, where maybe her wrestling's just really not all that good. She was a big body at 25. She's physically strong at 25. Mm-hmm. That's that grind against the cage can definitely have some success. And
the
that's
Page
what she
fight
did to
that
those
I was
opponents.
watching, thinking that path could potentially be there, but the size could matter, yeah.
And Joselyne Edwards seems to be the natural 35er. Like, she's had her last number of fights at 135 pounds. She's also only 26 years old, sorry. And if you go on her social media stuff, she's in King's MMA right now, California. She spars with Cyborg. She gets in rounds with like some of the best girls in the sport. And again, at 26, being under the tutelage of Rafael Cordero, yeah, listen, so is Sabina Mazo, and that did not work out whatsoever. So it's not a end all be all. I'm just saying, at least she's putting herself in a good situation to succeed. Jess Rose Clark, meanwhile, all the best fights of her career have all been at Extreme Couture, right? But then actually for her last fight against Alpar, and she did look good against Alpar, don't get me wrong. She leaves Extreme Couture. She moves over to California. She's 33 years old. She shows 2 fights back that against Toledo Bernardo, she pulls out of the fight tearing right foot ligaments, right? Personally, when I see her social media, a lot of it's strength and conditioning stuff, but you could see that she's battled a lot of injuries. And at 33, and with her style and a lot of bad weight cuts, I just feel like she's put a lot of mileage on her. Whereas Edwards is going to be a little bit faster. If she moves linearly and can avoid getting tied up against the cage or getting taken down, it's going to be a live dogfight. Probably goes 15. Going to be a close 15. So why wouldn't I want the plus 125 on that spot? Anyways, a dog or pass, I either want nothing to do with it, or like, if I got to chase a dog somewhere, I think this is a live spot.
Well, you talked me out of a Rose Clark or Jessica Rose Clark bet there, bud. I'm going to blame you if she wins.
Hopefully she doesn't come out here and just absolutely dominate like the Alpine.
I didn't actually want to do it, but that was kind of my read. I'm like, the pass should be there, but we'll see.
Face tat, bad ring IQ.
Yeah. The parry effect saved me potentially from losing a whole bunch of money here. All right, moving on down, we got Seung Woo Choi taking on Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres. Minus 280 for Choi, plus 225 Caceres. Weird situation where Caceres isn't taller than like one of his opponents. Like, that pretty much rarely ever happens. He's 5'10". He's fought a lot at 135 pounds, which has helped. But at 145, obviously there's going to be bigger frames. And Seung Woo Choi, 6 foot tall, has a 1-inch reach advantage. It's a weird stylistic matchup for Alex Caceres because he's not used to taking on guys this size. Do you have a hot lean on this one?
Yeah, honestly, nothing's a lock in the sport, so I'm interested in seeing how this one goes. But Seung Choi looks like he'll probably be top ticket material this week. I just really like how he matches up with one Bruce Lloyd Caceres. Again, you look at his run in the UFC, he gets mobs our Evlo of the debut.
Yeah.
Like, shit, kid, sorry about that one. But anyways, he survives the 15 minutes, just gets taken down repeatedly. And against Gavin Tucker, it's much of the same. His striking looks good. He's a former Korean Muay Thai champion. He actually competed as an amateur on the world scene and did quite well for himself. But against Gavin Tucker, it's much of the same. He's getting taken down. But at some point, it's like once he figures out how to stuff some of these takedowns, it's the same thing as why Godinez lost, right? These big, tall opponents who figure out, oh man, I can keep my balance pretty easy. And once I realize how to draw my hips into them and keep my balance, they're just such a big problem to take down. Suman Mokhtarian fight, man, what do you learn from that? He beat up Suman, no big deal. It's the Yusuf Zalal fight, and that's why this Keys fight. Yusuf Zalal fights almost identical to Bruce Leroy Caceres. They both move a lot on the outside. They like a couple rinky-dink kicks here and there. Volume's not very good, and they're trying to mix in a surprise takedown. They'll try to grind you up against the cage a little bit, and Bruce Leroy's got a better submission game than Zalal does. But Zalal's younger, a little quicker than Bruce Leroy, a little stronger than Bruce Leroy. So this is a great fight to go back and look at. And of course, we had Seung Choi in this spot because Zalal seems to struggle to take down some of these bigger guys. He's a plus 200 underdog. And he looked awesome in this spot. So rewatching that one, especially, he looks even better than I remember him looking live. The only success Zalal has is he presses him up against the cage. He'll get a little trip takedown, and immediately Seung Choi's back up. Once he's at distance, combination punches, tight, clean, 2-3s at a time. That kick is just, he's so long, right? He's got such a long frame that even if you were trying to pivot and get out, he covers a long range distance with it. And it's one of these slapping kicks, these thudding kicks. It sounds good in a small venue. You saw recently Thiago Santos beats Johnny Walker, and it was a pretty close fight. But what was the difference? It was like the 3 strikes that Thiago Santos landed made these big like smack sounds, whereas the 3 strikes that Johnny Walker would landed per round, yeah, they were just like a little, God damn, that was such a bad fight. You know, a little feint, touch and go, gone, right? So people like that big thud. And in this case, I think Seung Choi is going to back up Bruce Leroy. Bruce Leroy not physically strong enough to get him down. When you look at Julian Erosa, Yusuf Zalal, those guys put a little more on their strikes. Sit down on the strikes a little bit more, but he walks through all of it. He just walks them back, lands combinations. He's getting confident. And honestly, Paul, this kid's 28 years old now. All of that was just learning experience. Losing to Movsar Evloev, you couldn't wrestle? Okay, no problem. You continue to advance. You continue to get better. You continue to make those improvements. And to me, it just seems like he's making all the right improvements. Bruce Leroy, meanwhile, he is your classic gatekeeper fighter. He was actually 14-12 before jumping on this current 4-fight winning streak, which includes Steven Peterson, who's clinging on for a job in the UFC, Chase Hooper, who just lost to Steven Peterson and is definitely clinging on to a job in the UFC, Austin Springer just lost the one time, and then he hasn't ever been seen or heard from since. And Kevin Kroom, who should not be in the UFC, but at the very least is clinging to a job in the UFC. Funny you should say that. His wins prior to that: Martin Bravo cut, Roland D cut, Cole Miller retired, Masio Fullen cut, Sergio Pettis actually went on to win a Bellator world title, so that's a pretty decent one. But of course, that was 7 years ago now. Roland Delorme cut, Mototobu Tsuzuka cut, Demisio Page cut, Cole Escovedo cut. So he's always operated at a level where if you shouldn't be here and you're fraudulent, then Bruce Leroy defeats you. And that's where he comes through. He exposes fraudulent fighters. But when I see Seung Choi, I see a decent prospect in the making. With his size, as you mentioned, 6 feet tall, 74-inch reach on him, his striking acumen, if he can keep these fights standing, he's only going to get more comfortable and come into his own. So it's too big of a price tag. We hate paying these 3-1 favorites on these cards, no doubt about it. But the way I operate is I need to find some of these safer 3-1 favorites and put them together. And again, Contender Series from last night's a great example. You had 4 guys on the card that are astronomical favorites. So we put 3 of them on the top ticket, but Solomon Renfro sniffed it out. So we gotta just sniff out the bad favorites and go with the good ones. And I get the feeling Seung Choi is one of the good ones. So yeah, I have to roll with them.
Going through Alex Caceres' last 10 fights, which brings you back to 2016, he's landed 3 takedowns.
Fact.
So who's throwing the harder, cleaner, more technical strikes? It's going to be Choi. And Caceres is not used to taking on guys who actually have advantages in the reach and height departments. So It's a tough
And
matchup for him. He's not used to getting in there in these types of fights with guys that can really hang at those ranges. It's usually, I mean, Chase Hooper can't strike for like maybe Chase Hooper may have had an advantage there, but Chase Hooper can't actually strike. So that was going to be a tough day at the office for him, regardless.
And here's of course always the last question. Well, what about Punch's chance? I mean, it's an MMA fight, of course, always exists. You tell me right now. Look at his record. When was the last time he scored a clean knockout? Right? Because Roland D's eye, something happened to his eye, and the doctor called it off after 2. When was the last time he scored a clean knockout? And as you look for the answer to that, Kevin Kroom is not a durable fighter, and yet he went 15 minutes with him. Chase Hooper just took a beating, as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Right, just ate
but
everything
Hooper's got like some sort of like mutant level durability, which is scary because his striking defense is so bad that it's like that kid should be on like one of the regional scenes still. But he got forced into this situation. He's way too young. He's way too green. But Dana liked him on Contender Series, so he's in here taking on guys that. I mean, 5 years from now, he works on a whole bunch of things. He could be in the UFC. I'm worried about his health, basically, in this sport if he continues to take on guys at this level. I mean, we've seen it even up until the Peterson fight.
And in this case, for Bruce Leroy, the answer to the question is 2010. 2010, when he was on a Florida regional scene fight, he knocked out his opponent in the 3rd round with a TKO.
Mm-hmm.
In his second pro fight ever in 2008, he TKO'd opponent. And those are the only 2 times he's TKO'd an opponent, really. I mean, one was a doctor stoppage, so whatever. All I'm saying is he doesn't have the puncher's chance. He doesn't have the wrestling game. His path to victory is the submissions now. But you can't take the guy down. You can't stand with him. It really puts you in a precarious situation. So for that, those are the reasons I feel like Suwo Choi's got to be one of our guys this week.
All right, moving on down. We've got Grandpa Francisco Masaranduba Trinaldo taking on 37-year-old Dwight Grant. Don't be fooled. Not really a quote-unquote prospect. 43 versus 37. I mean, Cody hates old people. What's popping off? What's popping off in the age model here for you?
Yeah, okay, so Francisco Trinaldo, you got to realize, is that the guy doesn't actually age. He's one of these Yoel Romero types where his 43 is most guys 35.
He's probably 50.
And with Dwight Grant, Dwight Grant's only ever had 14 pro fights, and he's 37 years old. So it's not exactly like he's shop worn or used up by any stretch. Honestly, I found myself saying time and time again, I want to take the shot on Francisco Trinaldo. I'm not 100% sure what it opened at, but now that he's the favorite, I'm not interested in taking a shot on Francisco Trinaldo.
He should beat Dwight Grant.
Dwight Grant has looked abysmal in the UFC so far. I mean, he lost his debut to Zach Otto, and he was a 3-1 favorite. He got a couple wins over Carlos Parasolia, Alan Jouban. The Jouban fight, I don't think he won. He backpedaled the entire time. He fought a smart game plan. Wasn't exciting for the fans, but it was a smart game plan in terms of securing a victory. But Jouban marched him forward, and it was a close fight striking-wise. It was a competitive fight all the way through. Only you had one guy marching forward and unfortunately not doing a really good job of cutting off the ring, and Dwight Grant just running the entire time. His fight with Daniel Rodrigues is absolutely as thrilling gets. He drops him, he gets dropped, and then when he loses by first round knockout, he goes back to the running away shit. So this fight with Stefan Sekulic, imagine this. Stefan Sekulic was 0-1 in the UFC. He lost that fight. So Sekulic then went 0-2. The UFC cut him. They didn't even give him a 3rd or 4th fight. They released him. Sekulic also hadn't fought in almost 3 years when he took this fight against Dwight Grant. And I thought he got a straight-up robbery. Sekulic wins the first. Dwight Grant wins the second. 3rd round, Sekulic drops him at the end of the 3rd round. Rocks him. Gets on top. Lands a couple decent strikes. Dwight Grant just lost to Stefan Sekulic. That's how bad this man is. And the judges gave it to him. It was a close fight, so I'm not going to scream robbery or anything like that. No, not even like I bet it. I'm pretty sure I passed on that fight. Like, it was not exciting then, and it's not exciting now. All I'm saying is he's got this style where he runs away a lot of the time, and judges sometimes like it. And with Francisco Trinaldo, his output's not really all that good. He tries to land the big shot, but it's not like he's someone that's going to chase after you and consecutively put shots together. Whereas I wonder if Dwight Grant just doesn't stay to the outside, run away the whole time, land chipping shots at him. And unfortunately, it's a dull affair, but he secures himself a victory. I could honestly see that being a path. And then last but not least, and we can move on, or you can give me your take on it, whatever you want. He was supposed to fight Gabe Green in this fight. Green pulls out, and Trinaldo comes in short notice. So, you got an underdog here that's got a short notice or replacement opponent. Trinaldo's 43. Is he the kind of guy that can just jump off the couch and jump in there?
Yeah, because he's at one.
He's not like because he's got so much veteranship and he doesn't have a big weight cut anymore, I guess.
Because he's at 170 now. He doesn't need to, it's not like he's walking around closer to his weight. Obviously, he's giving up size here. Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo has made me so much money over the years. I'm betting him in this spot. Why? It really comes down to durability. I'm not sure that if this turns into a firefight and Dwight Grant isn't able to run away, that if they start exchanging blows, I'm trusting Grandpa Trinaldo's durability to keep himself. He may get rocked, he may get wobbled a little bit, but the guy's tough as nails. And we've had a good history. I'm betting Grandpa. True. I'm betting Grandpa again here, bud. If I lose, I lose. I'll still be up on Grandpa Trinaldo bets over the course of my life by a wide margin. Enough. Love the guy, legend. Maybe it's a heart over mind type of bet, but I'm doing it. All right, moving on down. We got Nick Negumereanu taking on Ike Villanueva, minus 220. Negumereanu plus 180. Villanueva. I mean, this line is a little bit startling.
Hell of a fight, man.
It's definitely a little bit startling. Props to Nick Negumereanu. He looked a lot better. Much more improved against Alexa Kamor last time out. Was it pretty? No. Do we think that this guy's some sort of next level athlete who's going to take over the game? No. Was the fight super close? Yes. But I mean, they gave him. This is the layup, man. Ike is the worst guy in the division. Now that Vincius Moreira, his only win in the UFC, now that guy is gone, I mean, this is a great little bet. This is an easier fight for Negumereanu than the Kamor fight was. So I hate minus 220 Negumereanu. It feels wrong. It feels horrible. Oh my God, why don't you take a dog shot? It's just I would never tell anybody to put a cent on Ike Villanueva. Just not going to happen. The only way, Vincius Moreira, it was because he was so one-dimensional. Whereas he only has grappling, his striking's horrible, and he just had no striking defense. So it's he's just going to eat shots all day to the melon. No, don't bet Ike Villanueva. Even if Ike Villanueva somehow scrapes this one out, wins it, we don't think that Nick Negumereanu is some sort of world beater, but I will never sit here at this desk and tell you to put your hard-earned dollars on Ike Villanueva. Never going to happen. What's your take here?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, you're never going to bet on Ike Villanueva. And again, it comes down to the fact that he's a one-round fighter. The guy can fight competitively for 3 to 5 minutes. And then after that, he completely falls apart. So his path to victory against Negumereanu is severely limited in the fact that the guy's pretty durable, man. I mean, the Safarov fight, he was young, man. He was only 24 years old. He hasn't fought anybody. Actually, that's a lie. He's got a win over Hatef Moel. Click on that guy if you want to see a jack specimen. But anyways, you make your UFC debut. If you remember that fight, he gets a couple takedowns in the first round, but Safarov just keeps grabbing the cage. He's I can't grab the cage. They take a point. So it's a 9-9 first round. He still loses, and then he gasses. Then he takes 3 years away from the sport. Dude hadn't fought in over 3 years. But he comes back to the sport as a 27-year-old fighter. Clearly, he hadn't been sitting around. Again, you look at some of his stuff on social media, he's in excellent shape. He comes from a Romanian wrestling background. Obviously, he wasn't able to apply it against a combat sambo specialist like Safarov in his debut, but you could see where the guy's in good shape. And the biggest thing to me was that he came down to Las Vegas and spent a large chunk of time in Las Vegas with some of the best guys in the world, clearly made some improvements. Now, the Alexa Kamor fight, it's a little bit deceiving. I thought he won. He won at 29-28. I think most people agree, and the judges ended up agreeing with him. But officially, he got outstruck 102-71. He, in fact, got outstruck in every single round. He got outstruck 39-29 in the first. He got outstruck 32-18 in the second. And he got outstruck 31-24 in the third. That fight was all body language because he ate everything Kamor hit him with and would come forward. Kamor looked cooked, man. He kept wobbling side to side and gasping for air, and the pressure was just too much. And this guy just kept coming after him time and time again. And Negumereanu did an excellent job of tying him up, putting him up against the cage, actually, and eventually got his takedown out of it, but just leaned on him and grind on him. And that's the kind of shit I want to see here against Ike Villanueva, because Ike's just not going to fight you for a prolonged period. Again, when you look at Ike, his last fight against Marcin Prachnio, 56 seconds into the second. Vinicius Moreira knocked him out 39 seconds into the second. Jordan Wright, first round finish. Chase Sherman, 49 seconds into the second. If he makes it to the second, it's not even a minute into the second. But then before that, Rashad Coulter, first round. Roger Narvaez, first round. Juan Torres, first round. Patrick Miller, first round. Those are all first round fights. That's where he does his best work. And again, when you look at Nick Negumereanu, Safarov put a beating on him. Kmore put a beating on him. Kid's chin's pretty good. His cardio checked out last time. His grind checked out last time. All he's got to do is survive this first round with Ike, and then he's going to put him in a real bad situation. And then last but not least, Ike's fight with Marcin Prachnio. It's a body kick finish for sure, but his leg, man, like he got his leg kicked a few times, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not attack him? He's so heavy on his lead foot. He has such a fundamental boxing stance. It does not translate to MMA. He could catch you. Yeah, all right, sure, could catch you. But boxing don't work, man. Someone who's light on their feet, lands some leg kicks, pushes you back, puts a grind on you. Everything that Negumereanu does is going to be effective with Ike Villanueva. The one issue, of course, and you mentioned it, the price tag. Nick Negumereanu is not good. Alexa Kmore is not good either, right? So we're operating at a very low level. But what we're picking the D fighter over the, what would you say, the E fighter? We're taking the C fighter over the D.
W That's fighter for worst in the UFC.
Yeah.
Now that Vinicius is gone, it's got to be Ike in this division. Like, who else would it be? I mean, Nick inside the distance is still plus money in a couple spots. He's got some subs on his resume, so like I'm not sure about submission versus TKO, but I pretty much can't go 3 full rounds. We haven't really seen that from him. If you're gonna bet Negumereanu, maybe hit that IT or Nick inside the distance. I see plus 110 out on the out in the streets there. Maybe that's how you attack this.
Yeah, my huge worry all weekend will be he'll be like a second ticket guy, and then I'm gonna have to realize the fact as the fight's about to start that I've got a bunch invested on Nick Negumereanu. But it's all about levels, and he seems to be operating at a slightly higher level. That's what I'm going with here.
Yeah, I mean, in all of his like early can fight, because he was fighting absolute slubs before the Safarov fight. Like pretty much nobody had
a win. Click on Hatif Moel.
What's that?
Check that guy. Check out, there's a guy on his record, Hatif Moel. He's a German heavyweight. Click that guy. You'd be like, oh, this guy's all right.
3-2.
And he would have fought him. He would have been like 23 years old.
That guy was only 3-2 at the time when they took on each other, but he's obviously, he's turned into something since. So that's actually not washed up UFC guys,
bad. But he smashes them.
I'm gonna hit some Nick inside the distance because I believe in fading Ike Villanueva. I feel it in my heart. All right, moving on down, we got Gregory Rodrigues taking on Jun Young Park, minus 110. It's a straight pick 'em. A couple weeks ago when we were talking about Tafon and Jukwi, it was Jun Young Park that I was thinking of, who had the body lock, was able to get the takedowns. This fight was open with Park being a little bit of a bigger favorite. Gregory Rodrigues is massive, hits really, really hard. And the action seems to be coming in on Rodrigues as a dog. And I can't completely fault people, but the Iron Turtle is like, we were talking about mutant level durability before. This guy doesn't get knocked out. The durability is there. The cardio is there. He's going to be taking some shots early on in this fight. So maybe it's just better to wait until, after the first 4 minutes or wait until the end of round 1 if you want to get in on the Iron Turtle. But I'm not buying into Rodrigues is an absolute specimen at middleweight. The guy's jacked. I don't understand how he makes the weight class. He's 6'3", and he's got a muscular build. That weight cut must be horrible for him. And the cardio did hold up last time out for him as well. So I thought he looked great against Duško Todorovic, to be perfectly honest. But I'm leaning towards the Iron Turtle here. What do you got?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Like, my mind's made up. I could see myself flipping on this one the closer it goes, but I think I'm going with Gregory Rodrigues to be 100% with you. Junghyun Park, his last couple of fights, as impressive as he's looked, they've looked good because he's getting takedowns. He took down Tafon Njoku. He took down John Phillips. He's not going to take down Gregory Rodrigues. I mean,
No.
Rodrigues' takedown defense is solid. He's just a jack specimen, like you're saying. You know, he's a very, very strong guy. His striking seems to be improving. You definitely saw some improvements his last time out, but he's a BJJ black belt, like a world champion BJJ black belt. Guy's got some solid grappling all around. And so that's what makes me worry is that when you look at Junghyun Park, his first fight in the UFC against Anthony Hernandez, he gave up 6 takedowns and then got subbed by an anaconda choke. But Marcel Barria, well, he's not a wrestler. In fact, he's got doesn't really want to take you down. He wants to grind you up and have a brawl. John Phillips is as one-dimensional as a boxer could get. And by the way, who goes 15 full minutes of John Phillips?
Fair.
Who goes 15 minutes of John Phillips? And then Tafon Njoku, well, again, he just used a very wrestling-heavy attack. And in fact, he actually gave up a takedown to Tafon Njoku as well. So my worry here is Rodrigues goes out and gets the takedown. He's going to be large and in charge. His top game's good. His submissions are good. And I don't know that Junghyun Park's got a great get-up game. I don't know that he's got a great game off his back. As far as the fight stays standing goes, he's got a good jab, but with Rodrigues, we saw him get clipped by Jordan Williams on Contender Series. So I'd like to see a guy with a little more power. Junghyun Park doesn't scream a whole lot of power. In fact, he hit John Phillips like 300 times, and only 49 of them were considered significant because he's just not a big power guy. He's more of a grind on you. So Rodrigues could have success in the stand-up department. He's going to have a lot of success on the ground. So the last thing comes down to cardio. That much muscle, surely you can't keep this pace going. But geez, the fight against Dusko, he didn't look half bad. You know what I mean?
No.
The one question, I'm going to bet him here, but this is the one thing that could screw me. There's no way this guy's only 29 years old. You know, I'm 30 years old. There's no way this guy's only 29. He looks like a 35-year-old man. And if he is, I could have some problems here. But if he's legit 29, he's only going to be making improvements here, dude. And he could definitely have the goods to go out there and spring. It's not an upset, is it? No, it's minus 110 aside.
It's a pick 'em.
Ever so reluctantly right now, I'm going to take Gregory Rodrigues. Probably the over 2.5. Turtle's pretty durable. But, actually, I don't even know if I want the over 2.5.
Well, if you're thinking the submission,
Hernandez
that's how you
locked up
do.
that anaconda slick, and Rodrigues could most definitely do the same thing. I will take Rodrigues, but I want to dive in deeper onto that one for sure.
All right, Mason Jones takes on promotional newcomer David Onama. Mason Jones, a minus 500 favorite. I mean, this line more or less just opened up today. Minus 500 for Mason Jones, plus 400 for Onama. I watched a couple quick fights from Onama, and honestly, he doesn't look too bad. I think this line, I'm coming in short notice. Mason Jones, we very much respect him. Cage Warriors champion, really really good prospect from out east, or from out in England. I don't know why I said out east. But Onama, doesn't look too, like, from my quick little bit of tape study on him, like, I don't think he looks like a complete fish. So when you see the price tag of minus 500 on Mason Jones, it makes me a little bit nervous. Mason Jones has shown that he's got great durability, pace, cardio, tenacity, the type of guy who's going to fight for your money. Onama steps in for Patrick, who went running, because let's face it, Alan Patrick did not want any more of that smoke. We all know how that fight was going to end with them. They didn't have to book the rematch. Best that when Alan Patrick comes back, like, he is getting an absolute murderer in his next fight into the UFC, and they'll probably be looking to cut him, because Mason Jones was well on his way to finishing that fight, and running it back seemed kind of silly anyway. Like, I didn't need to see it again. Onama, I think, is pretty good, but it's a tough, really, really tough debut coming into the UFC and taking on a touted prospect in Mason Jones. So, I mean, if I had to bet, because me and I like my underdogs, I guess I would bet David Onama here, but, like, I'm just going to pass. What about you?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I got to go with Mason Jones. He's another one of these guys that I would consider my boy. And it happened to Mason Jones once upon a time, too. He made his UFC debut against Mike Davis. That's what you would consider not an easy UFC debut. And Dude, that's a high level fight. I mean, this kid's making his debut as the Cage Warriors champion. He shows good wins on the English regional scene over Alexei Matinovic. Joe McLaughlin's okay, but Adam Proctor is a 12-0 prospect, 12-1 prospect, sorry. This guy's got the goods. I mean, he's another one of these Welsh type fighters. They've got excellent chins. They got good grappling, comes from a bit of a judo base, striking, very solid, pushes a good pace. And when you got a great chin, you got great output, you got great cardio, and you're a young fighter, you're going to be a problem. He's still only 26 years old. And you saw the Mike Davis fight. He already has an advanced skill set. That fight with Alan Patrick, he dominated him, pillar to post, and ends up with an accidental no contest because of an eye poke. So listen, it happens. He was the one that poked his opponent. Could his opponent, Alan Patrick, have continued? Most definitely. But he knew he was getting dominated. And Alan Patrick's a veteran. He's not particularly good, but he was getting dominated in there by the young buck. And same thing. I think Mason Jones making these improvements. David Onama, meanwhile, he's only 27 years old, and he's looked very good. As an amateur, he was undefeated 10-0, showed some decent wins. He actually beat Garrett Armfield as an amateur, who is a Stanford MMA prospect. And then as a professional, it's much of the same. I mean, he's 8-0. The difference is that he finishes these guys very early. First round, 11-13 opponent, 3 minutes into the first round. 2-0 opponent, first round. 8-4 opponent, third round. Mike Plazzola, 16-11. First round, knee injury, 44 seconds. And then Brad Robinson, his last time out, first round. So Mason Jones can take a hell of a punch. We've already seen it. Mike Davis hit him with some nasty shots. This kid can take a shot. And he can fight a good, strong 15 minutes. Those are things we know about him. His striking's good, although, work in progress. His ground game's good. He's making improvement. That's all stuff we know about him. David Onama, meanwhile, I know what you're saying. He actually does look like he's a very athletic fighter. He's got excellent movement. He's out of Glory MMA and Fitness, James Krause's team. You know that these guys are always ready on standby. They're always upset specialists, and that's all good stuff. But why was he not booked for a Contender Series fight? We're late in the season. This guy never got considered for a Contender Series fight. But he's willing to jump up, right? James Krause has got other fighters on the card. El Jefe is on the card. And who did we talk about earlier? I think there's like 2 or 3 of these Glory MMA Fitness guys. I believe Rick Glenn's at Glory MMA. Grant Dawson. My bad.
Yeah, Grant Dawson.
Totally had the opposite. Grant Dawson's there. David Onama's there.
Jeff
and
Molina.
when we get lower, Jeff Molina's there. So he's got multiple guys on the card. It makes sense that this kid was coming down to help corner, and he's got a fight on his hands. A tough fight on his hands.
Yeah,
I can't go against it. I got to go.
I mean,
with
they
Mason
opened
Jones.
this one.
The line off, sure, but people like to steam stuff, and I agree with the line movement.
They opened the line movement. I think you're reading that all
Coming
wrong.
back in?
It opened at minus 700, and people are taking the dog shot, and I can't fault them whatsoever because there was like plus 500s, plus 550s on Onama. He doesn't look horrible. It's just a tough spot. You're taking on a very, very good credentialed European prospect. But, minus 500 is 83% win probability. Like, that's pretty much a quote-unquote lock in the game. And I feel like Onama is pretty good. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to win, but I don't love... like, my question for you is Mason Jones going to be a top ticket?
No. I think
there
he
you
ends
go.
up on the
That's my answer, really.
Yeah. I think he ends up on the second line along with... You know what? The way it's going to end up being is we're going to want to hedge out opportunity in the main event. So Vettori probably ends up on the top ticket just by virtue of setting us up a hedge out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be on there with Suo Choi, right? And then that second line is going to have Grant Dawson on it, and it's going to have Mason Jones. You know what? I want Negumereanu maybe on that second line. So you might even be able to get a Jones on a third ticket if you're not comfortable with him. If you are comfortable with him, put him higher up. But that narrative of, the line, he's just too big. He's just too big. So you bet a guy just because he's too big. I disagree with that big time. Because again, I'm sure you watched Contender Series last night. We'll just use as an example. That Baralo, he wins a 10 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. He wins 98 out of 100 times. The only way he loses is if Anderson Weidmans himself and snaps his own leg. Only way it happens. Otherwise, he kills him wherever he wants. The dude moved up a weight class. When you get up to minus, he was like minus 1,100 by the time fight went off. That's 91%. Minus 1,000.
So you start
open up at 450.
You start getting like 95%. I got the probability calculator. So 95. So say if they fought 20 times, maybe one out of those 20, so minus 1,900 would be like banana peel. You know, somebody. We're getting into Kayla Harrison prices, where it's just like if she like tears her ACL, she tears her. No, I know, but like tears her own ACL going for a takedown and can't get up. You know what I mean? Like those are the types of things that you're trying to avoid when the prices get way too much. I know what you're saying from that perspective, but sometimes when the lines get so aggressive, it's like what's like a minus 1100 really adding to a parlay? You know what I mean?
A minus 1100? Well, it depends how big the parlay is. If it's a 2-fight parlay, almost nothing. If it's 2 guys on a 1 ticket, one of them's 1100, yeah, almost nothing at all. You know, if it's a 4-5 fight ticket, yeah, it's adding some value. If it's a 10-fight ticket, and that's what we do with Bellator, right? A lot of these guys are 5-6-1 favorites. Hey, I told you that last card, we beat the line movement on those 6 fights, and we did. So you want to get it on as early as you can. But even if you missed it completely, and you put all of them, and they're all 8-1 favorites come fight time. Jalon Bates, holy shit, he was like a 14-1 favorite come fight time. You know, if you put 6 of them on the same ticket, you're going to end up getting close to even money. And get to close to even money is what we look at. My thing is that the narrative yesterday's fight with Barallo is on his opponent. People are like, well, I'm just betting him because he's that big of an underdog. It's like, well, did you look at him?
That's crazy.
Do you like him?
Yeah.
At least in this is a situation you did look at David Onama. Mm-hmm. He's from a good camp. He's got 2 fighters that are on the card already. You know he's in good shape. You know that he's got all these things. He seems to be an athletic fighter, undefeated as an amateur and defeated as a pro. Mm-hmm. Big stopping power. So puncher's chance is live with this guy, where it's not live with a guy like Bruce Leroy. At least he has that extra element.
Yep.
Dude, I completely agree. Just Mason Jones is one of these guys that I would consider my boy, and I got to roll with my boy.
Yeah, no. I totally. I mean, if in a vacuum. If it was a freaking straight pick 'em, of course I'm picking Mason Jones. This line keeps moving though, so it's like when I look at other. Well, no, it was plus 424 or minus 425 at one place, and then it moved to 450. So we're probably going to end up in the 450 to 500 range by the time we go off on fight night. Yeah, I mean it's actually it's a much better fight, I think, than Alan Patrick versus Mason Jones. But tough spot for David Onama coming in on short notice against a credentialed prospect like this.
NFL fans, hungry for a big win this week? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, moving on down. We got Tabatha Ricci taking on Maria Oliveira. Tabatha Ricci is a minus 250 favorite. Oliveira can be had for plus 200. Here's the issue that I've got with this fight. Tabatha Ricci training with Mackenzie Dern, Sabina Mazo, the girl Piera Rodrigues, who's on Contender Series on Tuesday night this week. All people who...
Vanessa Demopoulos.
I feel like haven't had the greatest performances. Like Piera Rodrigues won. I thought she looked good. Her opponent has actually lost to Maria Oliveira. Wasn't able to find the tape on that one. Really wanted to watch that. It was from 2017 when they fought, but I wasn't able to find the tape on that fight. Tabatha Ricci, my concern is I know that she's got like world-class jiu-jitsu, and I see lots of people lining up, adding her to parlays, getting really, really excited about it. But, like, you go through her own record and you look at some of the opponents, like that fight on LFA, I forget which one it was, but Yeah, it was
Hornsby?
like I think it was the Grimes one. Like she literally just like walks through this girl. Absolutely dominates her. Like in no time, there's like no resistance whatsoever to to getting the fight to the mat. Like a lot of people will probably say, Maria Oliveira, anytime she's taking on anybody good, Marina Rodrigues literally made this girl quit on Contender Series. Literally, like no mas, didn't want any part of it. And then in Ryzen, I watched that fight as well against Asakura, I believe. And she had no resistance whatsoever to the takedown. It was bad. But Asakura's wrestling, when I was watching it, I was just like, I'm not sure Tabatha Ricci's got that level of wrestling. I thought Asakura had really nice entries to those takedowns, made it look easy, was able to control. Really, a roundabout way of all of this is I'm under the impression that both of these girls aren't very high level. Oliveira's got reach advantages up the yin yang. If Ricci's not able to get this fight to the mat, I think it's going to be a lot more competitive on the feet. Oliveira is a little bit herky-jerky, stiff, and upright, but she has massive reach advantage in this spot. Probably giving up a little bit of power, I would imagine, but if she's able to keep this at range, she probably wins this fight. And Ricci training with the likes of Dern and Mazo, like none of them have looked great recently. So I'm out on Tabatha Ricci. I don't know if this is the spot to fade her. This seems like a nice little cupcake matchup for her to get on the winning track, but until I see something from the wrestling game, I'm not feeling great about that minus 250. What's your take here?
Obviously don't feel good about the minus 250, but yeah, I can see the UFC trying to get her a victory. And I do completely agree. If it ends up being a striking battle, well, why would I want Tabatha Ricci in a striking battle? And especially, she's 5'1", Paul. 5'1", I mean, even against an opponent suited to her size, like this opponent's 5'5", right? It's like they're still way bigger. Her problem against Manon Fiorot is that she's 5'1", Paul, trying to take on a girl that's 5'7", fights at $125, and is a problem. I mean, Manon Fiorot, the fact that she can pass a drug test, this girl is physically strong, in excellent shape, striking for days, especially at that that division, and she's good output. She's a good fighter. Losing her, not a problem. It's that she took the fight on pretty short notice, moved up to 125 pounds to make it happen, and unfortunately got not just a big 25er, like a good, strong, big 125er. So I'm kind of inclined to give her a bit of a pass there. I know what you're saying, though. Vanessa Demopoulos can't wrestle for shit, but she's got really good grappling. And Mackenzie Dern can't not wrestle for shit, but she's got excellent wrestling. What I saw yesterday from Rodrigues, she was one of my top ticket plays. Woo, she cannot wrestle for shit. Actually, it worked out in the third round, and she needed it in the third round.
If she stole that fight in the last 20, 30 seconds, really.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I think she stole it in the last 2 minutes. I thought she did better work the last 2 minutes, but up until then, it was up in the air. So I get your angle. What you're saying is that, oh man, a lot of these girls are not achieving a ton of success and this and that. But how many girls can say, I'm in a room with 3 other UFC fighters? How many girls can say I'm in a room with 10 other girls? And that's one of the great things that they have over there, is that they have a women's MMA. Same thing as Sabina Mazo. She can't wrestle for shit either, right? Is at least you've got all these bodies to work with. At least she's, going to be properly trained. Maria Oliveira, my key issue here, I'm not saying she's not at a good gym, she is that you mentioned the Ken Asakura fight, right, where the takedowns came easy, right? But that fight is part of the atomweight Grand Prix for Rising, right, where they all weigh in at 108 pounds. She's not particularly all that big. So after she wins her first round fight against Elise Garcia, who, by the way, Elise Garcia is, I want to say 4'11". No, she's actually 5'1", but she's a natural 105-pound fighter. Fought pretty much her entire career at 105. She loses to Asakura. Then right away, UFC says, hey, you know what? We'll give you a shot against Marina Rodrigues, to which blown out of the water.
Tough matchup, though. Like, she's taking on...
So tough.
In hindsight, being 2020, it's like, wow, you're taking on a top 5 fighter in this division.
You're right. And then she takes 1 full year off before returning to beat an 0-1 opponent.
No, I know.
And then she takes
all of her
off
wins are
almost
against
2
complete
years.
bums.
She takes almost 2 years to come back and defeat an 0-0 opponent. So she actually hasn't fought an opponent with a single victory since Marina Rodrigues, who blew her out of the water. And then the fight before that, she was easily handled by another actually good prospect, and ask course, good fighter. So my thing here is that Ricci does need the takedown 100%, but this seems like the type of matchup where she's taking on a former atom weight. She should be able to lean on her. She does have a judo black belt as well. And all she needs to get is a trip. She tried to take down Mano right? Mm-hmm. She just couldn't. And then at that point, she was screwed. She needs to go on there. And then the other problem is against Fiorot, short camp. She was short notice. Here, full camp, your appropriate weight class against a smaller fighter who's got bad takedown defense. Gotta make it happen for yourself.
Smaller fighter, maybe a stretch. I know that she got into 108, but maybe Ricci could make 108 too, because she's very small.
Could be, but she hasn't. She's fought her entire career at 115.
And here's the thing about,
then actually took a fight at 125.
Because people are going to talk about strength of schedule, because like Maria Oliveira, she's only beat absolute cans. It's like, well, frankly, Tabatha Ricci's only beaten absolute cans.
Yeah, fair. But she trains with world-class opposition.
I mean, Carol Rosa and Maria Oliveira trained together. Pirana Vale Tudo.
Yeah, and it's Jessica Andrade's old camp. They know how to get a fighter ready, let me tell you. But again, maybe you want to pass on this one. Maybe this is your big favorite is going to shit in the apple pie. Well, Paul, you're giving me plenty of reasons to think that
feel like Ricci
doesn't get the takedown. She's going to struggle with the stand up. You're right. Path of victory for Maria Oliveira.
She's at the front of the line for potential apple pie shitters this week. There's not enough to know about Maria Oliveira, and I can't bet her because I saw her quit a game. Like, I don't want to bet on anybody who I just see go like, no, like standing up, no, I can't take any more. It's not really what I want to be attaching money to, but something seems off to me on this one.
And if she didn't have any heart, Paul, keep in mind she says no, and then over the last 4 years has fought an 0-0 opponent and an 0-1 opponent in the last 4 years since saying no. That doesn't scream heart of a fighter. Tabatha Ricci took a fight on short notice. She's undefeated. You don't need to do this. LFA is going to promote you. UFC will give you a fight down the road. Contender Series will give you a full camp at least. There's no reason to take a fight on short notice, up a weight class against an absolute, what would you call her? Not a stud, a studette, just an absolute world-class operator is what I should say. Man.
It was incredibly tough. I didn't even.
That's fighter stuff. That's hard too.
I don't dock anything from Ricci for taking the Fiorot fight because, like, what do you think? What do you think Manon Fiorot would do to Maria Oliveira? My word.
Right. Max bet. Let's max bet it.
Max bet whatever the price is. Mine is 1,900. We're literally we're Kayla Harrison prices basically. So.
Right.
And I wouldn't. It all kind of makes sense. I'm just a little bit worried. Like, if she can't get it to the mat, what does this fight look like? Ricci will be throwing bombs, but maybe she's whiffing at air because she's given up such amount, like 6-7 inches of reach. All right, Laureano Staropoli takes on Jamie Pickett. This fight was supposed to take place like about a month ago. Pickett, COVID protocols, they rebooked it. Here we are again. Anything changed from your perspective? I believe you liked Laureano.
Yeah, I got Laureano Staropoli, and this is just another case of, do you want to buy his $250 for Laureano Staropoli? He's not exactly a world-class operator. He doesn't have a whole lot of intangibles to his game. His wrestling's not particularly good. His striking offense, I like his output. I like his his willingness to mix it up, but it's not clean technique. He's not a big power guy as well. His wins in the UFC, Hector Aldana, formerly the worst guy in the division. Thiago Alves was at the tail end of his run and wasn't a great win. And then 3 straight losses, right? Muslim Salikov, Tim Means, and Roman Delites. The reason I give him a pass there is Muslim Salikov is a problem for a lot of people. I mean, he's worked a lot. He's actually worked a lot in Dagestan on his own takedown defense and his own grappling. But of course, he's got that kung fu base and just very unorthodox power striking. He's a problem. Tim Means is one of the craftiest veterans in the game. He's a problem. And Roman Delites, I mean, Staropoli moved up from 170 to 185 for that fight. And he didn't do terrible. Well, I mean, he did do terrible. What am I saying? He did fairly terrible. But he's fighting a much larger guy who's a grappler, and he had moments. He had spots. And that's where it goes back to, he's like Charles Oliveira's chief training partner. And if you're in a room with Chucky O on the day-to-day, you're going to make a lot of improvements. You're going to get a lot better. Staropoli's one of these guys. He's not the most technical guy going, but he's going to go out there and he'll likely make it a fight. His issue is he's given up takedowns in his last 4. 3 against Salikov, 2 against Means, 5 against Dolites, and even got taken down by Thiago Alves once upon a time. But with Jamie Pickett, I don't really see the threat of the takedown being there. And so now you've got Jamie Pickett in a striking battle, and it hasn't looked good for him so far. I mean, the Jordan Wright fight, he got outstruck 26-4, knocked out a minute in. He got hit 26 times significantly and knocked down in a minute and 4 seconds. That's pretty crazy, man. He never got going, though. With the Tavon and Njoku fight, he got outstruck 120-40. And Njoku's slow. He put just tremendous pace on him and just moved him back the whole time. He seems to move back a lot. Pressure guys will move forward. He'll take the one step back. His issue is that he's not a counterpuncher. He doesn't strike well off of his back foot, and yet he spends so much time going backwards. I thought he had a solid chin because he had never been knocked out in his career, and then Jordan Wright knocked him out in 64 seconds. So now the theory of can't knock the guy out is off the table. The theory of this guy's a good striker is off the table. He's not a wrestler by nature. So how does he beat Staropoli? Well, does he just suddenly become a wrestler? Staropoli will get back up. Look at Roman Delites, dude. You want to grapple with that guy? You want to roll around on the mat with that guy? Nah, absolutely not. But the kid was able to survive. It was I think worst case is that he gives up a takedown in the first round. Beyond that, it's going to be Pickett moving backwards, Staropoli moving forwards as he generally does, and just winning the numbers battle. Judges should agree at the end of, I think it goes 15, even though we just saw Pickett get knocked out. But at the end of the 15, I would think 29-20, it's our worst case scenario. Staropoli on volume, on, forward motion. I know people don't like to say they don't score forward movement. Well, they're human beings. The robot might not. But the human being sitting cage side, he sees the guy advancing. He sees the guy going for it. He sees the guy that's trying to mix it up a little bit. There's a lot of bad decisions in the game, but they do recognize that at the end of the day. And Staropoli has the type of style that I think he'll be the one going forward. Pickett's got the type of style where he doesn't fight particularly well off his back foot. I got to go with Staropoli. But as a minus 250 price tag, he's probably fourth ticket down, fifth ticket down. Like he's the type of big favorite that you would think should be higher up, but he's the type of guy that's pretty low level so far on a 3-fight losing streak. Both of his wins are no longer with the promotion anymore. He is ripe for an apple pie shitter as a favorite as well.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. And Pickett's best thing, what used to be his durability, but that's kind of questionable.
I know.
I think when we talked about it before, I think I was leaning towards Pickett. He's got some advantages in reach and stuff like that. But now we've got actually a 14 fight offering. Another late notice replacement has come in for the Martinez fight, which we'll talk about at the end of it when we get through these next three. He's taking on Lazish Valley, whatever. I forget. LFA guy. Yeah. 12-0. We'll talk about that at the end. But for now,
Georgian. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, tough as nails for sure. All right. For now, we'll talk about. I think a fight that's like under the radar, sleeper, like violence weight fight of the night for sure. Jai Herbert taking on Khama Worthy, minus 180 Herbert, plus 155 Worthy. This is probably one of those fights when you're making DraftKings lineups this week. It's like you're gonna need the winner of this one because someone's taking a canvas snap. One of the few fights on the card with a under 1.5 set line. So it's that and the Ike Villanueva fight are the two fights that actually have 1.5 rounds as the set. Jai Herbert's got some advantages in terms of reach. I think he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. Khama Worthy, not very durable. Jai Herbert, questionable chin as well. But I think the line is about right here. I think Jai Herbert probably wins on volume, has better cardio, I think, from what we have seen, and has a bit of a reach advantage. So I will lean towards him here, but I expect this to be a full-out firecracker. A very, very, what they would say, high variance fight. Like one of these guys is going to land. One of these guys is going to land big. Somebody's taking a canvas nap. I think it's Khama Worthy, 35 years old, who's going to take the canvas nap in this spot. But if Herbert gets knocked out on Saturday night, I am not going to be shocked. What about you?
Yeah, dude, I love betting over 1.5. That's my game. And sometimes it's greasy heavyweight fights and it's, oh, no way this thing goes 1.5. And I'll still bet the 1.5. And this is one of those spots where it's like under 1.5. I mean, you basically described it as good as you could. Someone's getting slept. Someone's getting finished. And yeah, I'm going to agree. I think it's going to go the other way as well, and that Khama Worthy is likely the one falling over. Jay Herbert, first and foremost, dude's got a 77-inch reach. Pretty crazy. I mean, he's got a super long frame to him. He's got good, quick hands. His fight with Francisco Trinaldo, he started off well, actually dropped Francisco Trinaldo. Unfortunately, Trinaldo's got a way of not getting knocked out, and when he doesn't get knocked out, he works his way back into these fights. And then the Renato Moicano fight, very evidently clear that he doesn't have the best grappling. But against Khama Worthy, likely not going to have to worry about the grappling whatsoever. So get your hands going, use that reach, establish a jab. And as soon as he finds his rhythm, as soon as he finds that distance, I expect a straight right down the pipe, probably to knock out Khama Worthy. I've been watching Khama Worthy for a long time now, and one thing has always stood true with him. He can't take a punch. He loses his first time against Paul Felder. Hey, it's Paul Felder. No big deal. This is 9 years ago, but he got knocked out a minute and 10. After that, he lost to Billy Q. He got knocked out 10 seconds into the second round. They lost to Matt Bassett. They're the UFC veterans, of course, but knocked out in the second round. Anthony Redditch had like a 6-5 record, knocked him out a minute and 6 seconds into the first round. Kyle Nelson, our boy Kyle Nelson, local Ontario guy, made it to the UFC again, knocks him out a minute 3 in the very first round. And then his last two fights, Ottman Azetar knocked him out a minute 33 into the first round, and Jamie Malarkey 46 seconds. Some guys can't take a punch. Some guys cannot take a punch. Khama Worthy falls into the latter category. It's not like he's lasting into the second round and getting TKO'd. He's getting knocked out a minute in. What does that tell you? That tells you the very first punch that lands has the capability of knocking him out. You don't get to put a pace on him. You don't get to throw 100 punches. You just got to land one, and he just doesn't have the resistance for it. You also made mention he's 35 years old at this point. He shows 7 knockout losses and 8 career defeats. He's been finished in all 8 because, I mean, the other one was a submission loss a long time ago. It doesn't matter. He can't get into these firefights anymore. And I bet you he's going to try to take Jay Herbert down. I bet you he's not going to want to stand. I know he's got power. I know he's got fast hands. He's got decent timing, but he stands upright and he can't take a punch. What he does have is a low key. I'm pretty sure he's a BJJ black belt. He's got that win over Luis Pena. You saw his grappling in that fight in particular in that third round, where he ends up getting a guillotine choke out of it. And you see him talk about, oh yeah, I spent a lot of time grappling. He's going to look to grapple Jay Herbert. But when it doesn't materialize, or when it doesn't go his way, or when he doesn't finish Herbert on the ground in the first round, Herbert at some point is going to chin check him and likely knock him out. So I got to go with Jay Herbert. I think he's a talented enough guy. He looked awesome in Cage Warriors, where he was the welterweight champion, and then he came to the UFC and has not looked good. The two guys he's fought happen to be pretty good fighters, Francisco Trinaldo and Renato Moicano. You know, we're going to give him a pass there. Khama Worthy, meanwhile, he's losing to good guys too. Jamie Malarkey, stud. Ottman Azetar, stud. Those are good guys. You know, who's going to land the punch first? Probably the guy with the 5-inch reach advantage, Paul. So I got to go with, once again, Jay Herbert to hopefully finish him. And regardless, probably doesn't go 1.5. Depending on who wins, someone's getting knocked out.
Would there be any concern about like Herbert like grappling here? Because like
grappling,
there's actually better
taken down.
There's better prices on Herbert by KO/TKO. I see plus monies on those, but the unders under 1.5 is already like minus 125 in some spots, minus 110.
Yeah, I think you go for the knockout over the submission, because again, the thing with Khama Worthy is his submission defense isn't bad. He spent the entire second round with Luis Pena on his back, never got submitted. But when you can't take a punch, those short little ground and pound strikes are going to discombobulate him, cause him to cover up. And in that regard,
I wasn't asking about a sub prop, but I'm like, Herbert's probably not a submission threat, is he?
No,
like a club. No, but like, does that even have any chance of hitting? Would be my question. Like a club and sub type, does he even fish for submissions?
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens all the time where you hit the guy and all of a sudden they just grab onto a submission. Does that mean you're a submission guy? No, but if the opportunity presents itself, you take it. But what I'm saying is the TKO prop would be the way to go.
Yeah. He's never actually got us. Or does he have any submission wins to his name? Rear naked choke back in Bama. So not really. Not really.
No. Yeah, no. And again, Khama Worthy's got good submission defense. Like if you're going to put him away, there's a reason why he's got 7 knockout losses. Guys aren't looking to submit him. Guys are looking to hit him in the head a few times. The times he wins, he knocks you out before you ever even have a chance. I mean, again, look at his victories, right? Devontae Smith and him are friends. So the fight starts, Vontae Smith's kind of like, and then Conor Worthy's like, don't like it that much. He lands the first punch. Boom, he puts him over. This one could go the same thing. Whoever lands first. I just feel like Jay Herbert's a lot better than what he's shown us. And Conor Worthy was actually overachieving by winning those first 2 fights. I didn't think he'd ever get signed to the UFC, let alone win 2 fights and collect some KO to the night bonuses. But he's got exposed bad in his last 2, and I think this is going to be a continuation of that. If he gets knocked out again here, he's getting released from the promotion. Jay Herbert could also get released, I suppose, on a loss, but I believe he's better than what he's shown us is all.
All right. Jeff Molina takes on Daniel Lacerda. -165 Molina, +145 Lacerda. Lacerda doesn't look too bad. I think he's trained with Alex Cowboy Oliveira. He's got a opportunistic, at least on the regional scene, some of the YouTube fights that I have seen from him, opportunistic grappling game, throws some serious heat on the feet. I don't know about his wrestling long term. Jeff Molina taken down 3 times by Iori Kilang and twice by Jacob Silva, so that is a bit of a path here. He seems very, very durable, don't get me wrong. 116 shots against Iori Kilang and 83 against Jacob Silva. Comes away with the decisions. They were very, very close decisions. Obviously, he's got James Krause in his corner. That should help in terms of strategy, getting ready for this matchup. I'm just like staring at this fight doesn't go to a decision or the under 2.5 rounds, because I do see, not just because of his Tapology account, but just based on like the style of fighter we see from Lacerda, he seems like an absolute finisher. He's going balls to the wall, Cowboy Oliveira type of style, where it's like, I don't really know what this kid's gonna look like when he gets extended. He usually finishes guys on the Brazilian regional scene way too fast for us to know if he even has a gas tank. On top of that, like, Molina landed a couple knockdowns against Iori Kilang last time out. The under in this fight is just staring at me. Fight doesn't go to decision, and under 2.5 rounds. I know it's a flyweight fight, but this one should be very, very high paced, and I know Molina can go at that pace for 3 rounds. I'm not sure if Lacerda can, so my money, I think, is better well served in this fight not seeing 15 rounds. What about you?
15 rounds? No way.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Old-timey boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, no, for sure. See, Daniel, what the move here is that we might like Molina. We want to take that shot at Molina. You're going to get a better price on Molina after that first round. Because Lacerda actually does look to be a little bit better. One thing with Molina is he moves a ton. He's got a ton of movement, right? And I think his lead leg is going to be getting chopped up by Lacerda, who's just got nasty kicks, man. This guy looks like whatever he throws is heavy. You mentioned it. He's got like that Cowboy Oliveira effect where he likes to throw heavy, likes to be a big power guy, as well as he's got a good submission game. Like if he ends up on top, he's going to be a problem using some of that top game, establish control, grind away some of the clock, and then use his submissions effectively against Jeff Molina. But yeah, it just goes back to what we know. And what we know is Jeff Molina can fight 15 minutes. What we don't know is that about Lacerda. His last 6 fights have all ended inside of the very first round. What does he look like? And he throws so much power behind the kicks. It seems like he throws a lot of power. He sits down a lot of his punches that I don't know that he's going to be able to continue that for 2-3 rounds. Against Molina will be moving on the outside, darting in and out, but Lacerda probably does give the better impression after the first 5 and gets the first round. Now you need to hope that this Lacerda guy's a fraud, starts to tire out, and that Molina can work his way back into it. But even if the second round, this guy Lacerda's got enough gas for the second, Molina's still going to be live in the third. Like if he's down 2 rounds, it still would be a decent live betting opportunity, depending on what the price is that you're getting a guy out of Glory MMA and Fitness. You know he's going to fight for it, right? His last fight against Iori, my God, he got rocked. They all got rocked. It was a hell of a fight, but he just put a tremendous amount of pace. Everything he throws just goes for it. And when we were capping that fight, one thing about Jeff Molina, he's only 24, is that he had won the 2020 awards for like most improved and best teammate. Apparently he's just in the gym all the time.
Well, I remember
he
him.
corners a lot of these fighters with James Krause. You'll see El Jefe is usually in the corner along with them. And he's just like one of the go-to guys, continuously making improvements. Again, still only 24. He just won his UFC debut. It was a crazy good fight. And he showed a lot of legitimate promise. The camp that he's at also has 2 more fighters on the card. And you can't tell me that working with guys like Grant Dawson every day is not going to be good against Lacerda trying to take you down. And that power kicking game of his, like, he's got bodies to work with. He'll put himself in a good spot. I just don't see him winning the first round. I could see him winning the fight. Don't see him winning the first round. And because he's the favorite pre-fight, I'd rather just wait until the first round and then bet him. As far as parlay goes and stuff, it will be Molina. But I got some respect for Lacerda. I think this could be a trap line in sorts. So Molina will be lower down.
Yeah, I'm gonna attack the unders, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Just what I see on Lacerda, it's just like I have my doubts of whether he can keep that pace. If I lose the bet, I lose the bet. But at plus money, I think it's a pretty good spot. I see a lot of violence between the two of these guys, and it should be a really, really fun fight. And finally, we've got Livinha Souza taking on, or not finally, because there's another fight that we'll talk about without a board. But we got Livinha Souza taking on Ronda Marcos, minus 125 Souza, plus 105 Marcos. They are disrespecting your girl Livinha here, I think, Cody. Don't you think?
Think so. Well, I mean, Livinha's definitely caused me some heartache and some money. So I don't know how exactly excited I am about the prospect of losing on her again.
She's not the person that came over from, that we're thinking potential, title contender when she came over from Invicta back in the day.
I thought so.
No.
Yeah, I thought so, dude. I had high account for her.
A lot of people, here's my one thing about, Ronda. Obviously, Ronda's coming up. They had to basically give her another fight because of how that Luana Pinheiro fight ended. But I went back and watched that fight, and it's just like Pinheiro was doing really, really well in that fight. I think Pinheiro's going to be disrespected because people think that she faked it. The up kick on the ground. Her eyes were rolling around a bit. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that was, her fabricating it. All I know is she got kicked in the head. It was an illegal strike. They would have cut Ronda Marcos after that fight. If that fight played out the rest of the way like it was, like Pinheiro was winning that fight pretty clearly before the illegal upkick on the ground. I don't know, man. Ronda Marcos is going to have to bully this fight around, hold it up against the cage, get the fight to the mat. I mean, and if we think about the judges, and we're still at the apex this week, we think about how the judges were judging fights last week. Ramazan Ameev, he lost a fight because, that style was not getting, it was not getting, the judges were not taking favorably to it whatsoever. Do I think that, I cast a 9-1 on Danny Roberts after round 2. I'd for him by decision. Do I think that Roberts won the fight? No, not necessarily. Did I think 9-1 with the state of judging in the UFC was way too wide? That 100%. So I don't know if those types of if that type of judging shows up in this fight, it's not very favorable to Ronda Marcos whatsoever. I want the blessing on Souza before I throw any money here. That's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to her, but she's fraudulent in the UFC. In Invicta, she was the best. Wins over Katkan Kopna, former champion. Deanna Bennett, former champion. Split decision loss to Angela Hill in a 5-round fight. Beats Ayaka Hamasaki. These are not just wins. These are as high as Invicta, as high as women's MMA, those divisions. That's the creme de la creme. She makes her UFC debut against Alex Chambers as a minus 1350 favorite and looked the part. Got a first-round submission victory. Course, it's Alex Chambers. You know what's up. And then it's been a massive letdown since, man. She won a split decision over Sarah Froda. She looked awful. She lost to Brianna Van Buren. She was a slight favorite, but looked awful. The win over Ashley Yoder, she looked awful. And then that last fight against Amanda Lemos, the first punch that had landed folded her. She gets back up, and it was just like she's shaking, staring at her. Doesn't try to get the fight to the ground. Doesn't try to switch up anything. Just deer in headlights, frozen up. She got outstruck 29-1 and knocked down twice before the referee was like, I can't even watch this anymore, and waves it off. You watch that back, it's hard to watch. It's like, what is going on here? What happened to the girl in Invicta? She's not here anymore. So again, I have lost money on her because I knew what I saw before. I knew the kind of progression she had: judo black belt, BJJ black belt, big, strong body kick, decent enough hands, physically strong. But it's like, she's not a fighter. She doesn't want to fight. She's a good hammer. She's just an awful nail. Ronda Marcos, meanwhile, is pretty much never the hammer, but has turned out to be a pretty serviceable nail. She's fought in only world-class competition. Well, she only loses to world-class competition. And again, the Luana Pinheiro fight, it's easy to say, well, why didn't Luana just continue? She was dominating her, but it was only the first round. Marcos wasn't going anywhere. Kanako Murata, Jesus. Kanako Murata is a high-level Japanese wrestler, like high level. And again, she got taken down 4 times in that spot, but went the distance with her. Mackenzie Dern, she's got the black belt. Amanda Ribas, you mean the same Amanda Ribas that absolutely walked right through Liviana Souza like a stroll in the park? Yeah, no, she went 15 minutes with her. She also beat Ashley Yoder. That's a win for both of them. The other losses: Claudia Gadelia, Marina Rodriguez, Amanda Nunes, his wife Nina Nunes. She's got a win over Angela Hill. All I'm doing is naming you in the top 5 of the division. Mm-hmm. All she does is fight the best girls and fights them. Whereas my one issue with Liviana Souza, she seems ultra talented. And to be honest with you, I can see her getting takedown. She gets a takedown over Ronda, holds Ronda down. That's the path to victory. But Ronda's going to scramble and make her work and hit her a few times and grind her and tire her out. And she quits. She's a quitter. That's what she is. She's a quitter. And Marcos, meanwhile, knows her job's on the line. She's on a 4-fight losing streak. She loses this, she's gone. There's no more opportunities. She's 33, 34 years old now. This is what you would call and 36. She's 36 years old now. This is what you call the end of the line for Ronda Marcos. 4-fight losing streak, 36 years old. It's do or die. It's do or die. So why not leave it all? One of them's going to leave it all out in the cage and go for it. And one of them appears to be a quitter, as far as I can see. We'll see how it plays out. But take your blessing. Take whatever. You want to better. Do it. Go with your gut. My gut is this girl's burned me before. And even though she's got skills, I've thought that before. And she's come out and looked absolutely abysmal. So what she does have going for her is Ronda Marcos is not likely going to knock her down. She hasn't really got good hands. But the grind, the wrestling, the desire, it's enough to make me ever so slightly think that Ronda Marcos is live as an underdog. So it's a dog or pass situation. I'll take the underdog.
All right. And finally, no odds for this last one. Zviad Lazishvili, the LFA bantamweight champion, taking on Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez was supposed to take on Aaron Phillips on this card. He was supposed to take on Marcelo Rojo, but he had a botched weight cut leading up into that. That was back in September. What can you tell me about Zviad? Zviad was supposed to take on Jack Shore. That fight fell through for, let's see here. Lazishvili was just like, this seems like a little bit too hard of a debut. He withdrew from that fight back in September. So I don't know what there's no odds obviously for it, but do you have any sort of information to throw it at us on this one?
No, I really don't, to be honest with you.
There's no price, there's nothing.
It got announced really late. What I can tell you though is, so I just remember from the one fight he fought Ricci. This is just what I remember because it got announced either last night or today, but your guess is as good as me. I've not looked at it, but he fought Ricky Steele. Ricky Steele was undefeated. He was an Ultimate Fighter veteran, and it was for the LFA. I believe it was for the title. Yeah, it's for the vacant bantamweight title. He's a plus 180 underdog. The only reason he's the underdog is he shows wins over 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 9 straight 0-0 guys. Sorry, 10 straight 0-0 guys. And then comes over to LFA where he went 0-2, looked pretty good. Looks like he's got big power. He's one of these strong guys from Georgia. I forget who put the meme up the other day, but it was the 5 Georgian fighters in the UFC, and they are rocking a nice looking record, man. Obviously, Merab Dvalishvili is their guy, but dude, they got great cardio. They're so strong. They're cast iron. They got a great mentality. They grind. UFC sees him win the LFA title. That's usually a free contract in the UFC. And he takes a fight with Jack Shore. This is scheduled a month ago. And he withdraws of the fight about 2 months ago. It was the beginning of September. I don't know why he withdrew. I don't know what the hell's going on. Effectively hasn't fought in 1 year, but the fact that he just pulled out 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago from a fight is not exactly, but it could be anything. It could be a visa issue. It could have been a COVID related, like a corner man. Like, you don't really know. It might not be an injury. And so now that he's taking this fight against Jonathan Martinez on short notice, might not be as short notice as you think. And with Jonathan Martinez, he's a pretty fighter. You know, he fights very pretty from the outside. He does not like getting roughed up. He doesn't like guys entering the pocket. He doesn't like guys backing him up. His last fight with Davy Grant, I thought he fought an excellent first round. Looked very smooth, very fluid, kicks for days. He's obviously a good, talented striker, speedy guy, good footwork. In the second round, he's tired. And he's largely tired because Davy Grant's just marching forward and causing him to use his wheels. Once he gets tired, Davy Grant ends up heading to the counter shot and knocking him out. His other fights that he's had some troubles with, Andre Ewell, he should have won that fight for sure. But Andre Ewell was the guy moving forward the whole time, whereas Jonathan Martinez was backing up. The judges didn't like it. Andre Sukumadev outstruck him once upon a time. Not a great look. So with Zayed Lavashvili, like, I know he's got a good ground game. I know he's a power wrestler, and he's 12-0. I don't know if he could take a punch. He fought 10 guys with an 0-0 record and then cruised through 2 guys for LFA. So if Martinez hits him with a flying knee up the gut, and we've seen him do that to guys before, hits him with that nice little counter right he has, he could pose us some problems. On the other hand, if you just want to take a blind shot on a narrative, this Georgian guy is going to pressure him, get in his face, grind on him. He's not on short notice. He had a scheduled fight 6 weeks ago in the UFC. He's going to be in shape. He trains with good guys. He's going to find a way to victory. Martinez should open as a slight favorite. The only reason I say that, he's got legitimate experience in the UFC. He does show a win over Thomas Almeida 2 fights back. He did get robbed against Andre Ewell. So you could make an argument that the kid's 4-1 in his last 5 fights.
This is a harder.
They'll also
matchup.
look at the 12-0 Georgian fighter and say, hey, you know what? If this guy fights like his comrades, he's gonna put a pace on him, and he'll be a live underdog.
Oh,
So
12
yeah, we don't know what the price is. I
12
could cap it for you because I don't know enough against Lavashvili, but I think I would cap it at like opener minus 135, minus 145 Martinez as an opener, maybe.
12-0 LFA champ. Like, I mean, this is a lot.
2-0. He's a 2-0, really. Those other 10 fights, what do those count for, right?
Yeah, I know, but like, I mean, it's probably a harder fight than taking on Aaron Phillips, where Martinez was supposed to be a minus 350 favorite. Like, they're not doing him any favors with this matchmaking. Oh, funny thing popped up on Twitter, MMA Junkie. Paulo Costa, I can't listen to it right now because we're obviously on the show. Paulo Costa, currently 211 pounds, says he won't make 186 for Saturday's main event. Maybe we can do a catch weight of 195. So
that's such a dirty move.
No,
these guys are so greasy.
No way I am touching Paulo Costa.
Yeah, but do you even want to touch Vettori now? That's a bad advantage.
It may be mind games. It may be mind games completely, but what I'm saying is, like, yeah, definitely massive red flag. All the way around. And yeah, that's super tough on Vettori, who's probably already down at like 197 or probably somewhere in that range already, getting ready to get down to 185. So it is kind of bullshit.
Such a fraud.
That's
some fraud move.
I wouldn't be surprised if the fight gets canceled if he can only get to 195 or 190 even. Like,
yeah, I would go. Actually, that's not even a great deal. I was just going to say, I would go what Randy Brown says. And Randy Brown was like, well, they should move it to 50%, right? This is a 10-pound miss. If I'm Vettori, I'd be like, I'll take the weight cut. Or I'm not going to make 85. You make 95. You pay me 50%. But I'll either this fight's off. I don't need to fight. UFC will pay me my money, or give me half yours. But looking at it, Paulo Costa don't actually get paid shit. He got paid $60,000 as a base against Yoel. And then he would have got paid, $100,000 against Israel because it's a title fight. But now he's probably dropping back down to be like, probably makes $100,000 best case. So this is a headlining fight. You could probably position yourself back into another title fight with Israel Adesanya within 2 or 3 more. If you're Vettori or Costa with a win. So this is high stakes. Is $50,000 for a 10-pound advantage even worth it? Like, no, it's actually not worth it at all. It's a dirty move. It's a dirty, greasy move. I'd say you got to cut down. And if he does cut down, well, then we're on Vettori all day. If this gets moved to a catch weight of 195, my only concern, we're banking on Paulo Costa gassing out after
now
2
his
or 3.
now his gas tank holds up.
Now he might not. Now he might. You're all over it, Paul. You know what's up. So that's the worry there if it ends up getting moved.
I mean, if this is the case, he said, and I see Jonah Shiffy or J Shiffy DFS. I'm obviously not listening to what he put in quotations. I'll disclose the circumstances leading up to me being 25 pounds overweight after the fight. So maybe he's injured.
Drank a bottle of wine.
Maybe he's
okay?
drank a bottle of wine.
It actually wasn't a bottle of wine. It was actually a bottle of bacon grease. And now I'm 25 pounds over. What can I do?
I mean, it's always been kind of tough for him. He's huge. He's absolutely monstrous for this division. I think the way that this guy really blows up in between fights, Paulo Costa, it's like there's no good reason why he couldn't be very effective at 205 pounds. He'll be giving up a little bit of size there, but maybe that helps the cardio to extend, and maybe that would be a good spot for him. So I don't know. Maybe it's all mind games. Maybe it's absolutely nothing at all. All right. Quickly, let's get into, we got a big race on Thursday night there, kid.
Hell yeah, that's right. DOP Racing. I got to give a shout out to Mike Brown, Mike Inman, Brooks Joyner, Jared Price, Josh Sorensen, Richard J. Gould, Paul Shaughnessy, Pat Mayo, Pogi Rob, Jeff Feinberg, Dustin Chafee, Mike Alexander, Joshua Rakers, Eddie Gordon, Colin Bissett, Mike Harrington, Zach Conti. Let me just scroll down here. Jake Bunn, Brad Smith, Kevin Napier, Ben Walker, Joshua Smith, Clint Graves, Earl Mayer, Jordan Moses, Chris Darabis. Sorry if I mispronounced that one, buddy. Eddie Hanley, Sebastian Brown, Miles Lane, Joel Armstrong, Josh Swinatowski, John Scher, Dale Ledyard and the Hillbillies. What's up, Hillbillies? Thomas Avery, Andrew Sinclair, Freddie Mojica, Eric Plock, Joshua Svatley, Felix Levine, Michael Garabedian, Joshua Whitrow, Elias Pesakea, Matthew Fallon, John Vaccaro, Tyler Gates, Jonathan Norris, Trevor Chatton, Matt Dulkin, Samuel Villamani, Elish Goshberg, Dan Robinson, and Jeremy Gray. What's up, boys? We got ourselves a racehorse, and we got ourselves a race on Thursday night. So, yeah, what we went ahead and did, we kind of promoted it for about a 3 weeks period of time where you could get in and buy a fractional ownership. Those are the list of the guys that stood up to the plate and said, you know what, let's have some fun this year. So we went and we secured half of a yearling. A yearling is a baby horse, 1 year old. They cannot race until they're 2 years old. So you are going to have to sit on this horse now. You're not going to be able to race him until June. June's your best case scenario, right? He develops properly. He comes around. He can race at 2. If he's not ready for 2, he can race at 3. Large majority of horses end up racing by 3. But the hope is you have a nice 2-year-old, a nice 3-year-old. That's where the real money is. So we know we're going to have to sit on him for anywhere between 6 to 10 months. And, who wants to sit for 6 to 10 months on a what-if possibility that he does come around? Although he's a beautiful horse, if he does come around, we're going to have some really good times. But in the meantime, we secured Callisto Dream. She's a 3-year-old trotting mare. She's only had 6 career lifetime starts. She's won one of them already. She's got 15,000 Canadian on her card. She's racing this weekend or Thursday for 17,000. So the winner of the race gets 50%. Second place gets 25%. Third place gets 12%. Fourth place gets 8%. Fifth place gets 5%. We're looking for a top 5 finish. And yeah, we're going to have some fun, man. We're going to race this mare all winter, get DA Jiminy Cricket ready for the summertime. And then hopefully he's that big stake horse that we'd love him to be. He comes out. I know a lot of that sounds like gibberish. A lot of that sounds confusing. All you guys to know, I'll send out that link replay. It'll be a thrilling time. And just like my investments in MMA or my investments in my personal affairs in real life, it's all about making money, having fun, but it's got to be a business. I'm looking at it as a business. So we own fractional ownerships in 2 horses. You, as being one of my 1% owners, have a 1% ownership in the DOP Racing stable as an entire operation. So I hope that we have a lot of fun, make money, have the right horse. And then next year we can go out and get 2 horses. Next year you can go get 3 horses. One good thing about this Callisto Dream that we have is she's got a royal pedigree on her. Like her dad made $3 million. Her mom made 270. Her grandma made 450. They were all nice gold horses, right? She's not going to make 3 million. If things go well, she could be a horse that makes 200,000-300,000 on her card. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of money in her family. So people are going to want to buy her as a broodmare. They're going to want to breed to something like that. So if she does well, makes money, DA Jiminy Cricket comes out, does well, makes money, the next year or two, we probably end up close to a dream, has a good racing career, you retire her, and then breed her. And then you've got a baby every year. You could drop it in a yearling sale, make $40,000, $50,000 on a yearling, 40-50 American, or we could race it if we like it. So It's all about baby steps and creating a bigger operation. Same thing with betting MMA. I've been betting MMA for 10 years. The worst year I've ever had, I actually made $1,800. The best year I had ever had was last year. I made 48,000. It took me that entire run of 10 years. Same thing with Twitter. I had 3,000 followers before the pandemic happened. I went to Florida like a week before the pandemic happened. They shut down the borders, and I had like 3,200 followers. Okay. I almost have 13,000. How did I get those 10,000? It doesn't happen overnight. It's not some overnight success. It's like I've had Twitter for 12 years. I've been putting out gold as far as I'm concerned for like since 2011. It's just like it's a grind up till you learn. So this horse racing thing is the same thing. We're going to start off with these 2 horses. And if things go well, Lady Luck's on our side. And of course, hard work ethic's going to take us there. Down the road, man, you're going to have a stable of horses. So I'm really excited about what the future holds.
I'm just excited to like be in the little group chat that we've got, sweating some horse bets, and I don't know, just I mean, it's a nice, it's a fun little community thing, and if we make money off of it, even better. But I mean, everyone wants to make money. Obviously, you're a competitive guy. Your family is competitive in this space. We want to win. But it's a fun thing for us all to do at the end of the day. Any funds that we make on top of it is just, the icing on top of the cake. All right. Here's what I'm betting this week, Cody. -125. Francisco Massaranduba. Can't leave my boy. He's only 6 years older than this guy. Like that's like the oldest, that's the smallest age disparity he's had in a fight in God knows how long. So Francisco Massaranduba can't quit my boy. Nick Negumereanu, I see a +110 out there inside the distance. Ike doesn't go 15 minutes, and I have to go with the durability of Negumereanu in this spot. I'm probably gonna bet some Herbert KO. See some plus money out there on that. Under and fight doesn't go to decision in Molina versus Lacerda. That's just the read I've got from watching tape. And that's more or less it for right now. But obviously with Paulo Costa coming in, looking for a catchweight fight, Mad Marvin with Vettori is not going to be very happy. If you think that he's mad in like the best of circumstances, just wait until he finds out that Paulo's trying to pull a quick one on him here.
If you think he's going to be mad, wait until you see how mad Dana White is when he realizes he needs to promote Ricky Glenn in the main event and has a co-main event of Jesse Rose Clark versus Joselyne Edwards. Nobody's more pissed off than Uncle Dana about this one.
Dana's going completely.
He's got nothing else to promote.
His face is going to be redder than Marvin's for sure.
Oh,
so yeah, those are the 4 bets. Seung Choi, I think he's a decent parlay piece, but you're the parlay expert. That's what the people are here for. So we're just about out of time here, Cody. Before we go, hit him with the PRP.
Okay, the PRP would be Marvin Vettori, Grant Dawson, Joselyne Edwards, Suwo Choi, Dwight Grant. Jeez, that's dog number 2. Effectively, dog number 2. Nick Negumereanu, Gregory Rodrigues is even money. Mason Jones, Tabatha Ricci, Laureano Staropoli, Jay Herbert, Jeff Molina, Miranda Marcos. I really don't like that one. As you can see, we only like 3 underdogs on 14 fights. This is where parlays are going to get tricky. So what I would like, Vettori, you can put him as a top ticket guy because you have until the main event to hedge out, see how the other thing scraps up. Grant Dawson, like Grant Dawson. Jesse Rose Clark versus Edwards, I would pass on that. I think it goes 15 minutes. Suwo Choi, he's parlay material for me. Dwight Grant versus Trinaldo, you don't need that. Negumereanu, I'm going to have to use him as parlay material, but hopefully a little lower than I'd like to. Gregory Rodrigues, I'm going to play. I'm going to pay to play for that one. It's even money. What can you do? Jones is going to have to be parlayed. Tabatha Ricci is going to be lower on because you and I, maybe that is a sniffable apple pie shit moment. I am going to take a shot on Jay Herbert. The Molina versus Lacerda fight, honestly, I don't really care for it. I think that you're going to get a better Molina line after the first round, and at -165, he'd have to be lower on. And then Liviano versus Marcos, you really don't need any exposure to that, to be perfectly honest with you. So if there's any props I see, then I'll tweet the props out as well. But for the most part, I'm looking to, just like always, I'm looking to secure my 2-fight parlay, my 4-fight parlay, my 6-fight parlay, and it'll be a great time. That's 6 fights. If I got those 6 fights right and got the other 8 fights on the card wrong, I wouldn't care. It would be a profitable night for me. But people want to know the entire 14 fights and hopefully hit a PRP. And to that extent, I think we can hit it. You know what I mean? We're going to need some bounces. It's a 14-fight card. It's going to get greasy. But if those 3 underdogs hit and we get, 11 favorites do their job, I'll look at it again. We also got Bellator this weekend, so if we could sniff out the dives, then we could put something decent together all around. But yeah, I mean,
are you releasing a Bellator video this week or what?
You know what? I don't really know if I will. I don't really have the time, and it's not your typical. Remember, I didn't release one for the England show. I just released like, here are the 9 best picks on it, and the 9 best picks happen to hit. I didn't actually pick on the entire card because there's a couple fights on it. It's like, what would you want anything to do with that, right? Looking at have they even put the Bellator lines out yet?
Yeah, okay, so looking at the Bellator line, they're not at DraftKings Sportsbook yet, but they're out there.
Yeah,
you got Fedor. Fedor's so pretty much
Fedor, Tim Johnson. You go Tim Johnson day in, day out. He can still take a punch. He's got a wrestling grind. He can fight multiple rounds. He's honestly been fighting the best guys Bellator has to offer. Why Fedor chose him, I don't know. It is in Russia. They could potentially try to do something with you.
Something weird.
Yeah, but it's only minus 120 Tim Johnson. Like, it should be minus 240 Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson's still a relevant heavyweight.
Which Fedor fight was it that, the ref just wouldn't let the finish happen?
Fabio Maldonado. Yeah, that was a great fight. Yeah, and Fabio almost
finished. The most refs step in. It's just like, it's almost like that ref knew that there was like a gun pointed at him. If you step in, you stop Fedor before he's like convulsing. You'll sleep in the under the bridge.
Yeah, that's it, dude. He lasted 35 seconds. He lasted 35 seconds against Ryan Bader, right? And he lasted 1:14 against Matt Mitrione. Neither guy have had any success since fighting him. And then his last time out, he fought a 300-pound Quentin Rampage Jackson, who actually looked like he was a 400-pound Quentin Rampage Jackson. So, like, he's got some freak show fight exposure going on. But honestly, Tim Johnson just went 5 rounds with the best guy. It was an interim bantamweight heavyweight title fight. Valentin Moldanovsky is a stud. He just went full round with him. Choi Kongo went the distance, smashed Matt Mitrione, beat Tyrell Fortune, who's everybody's darling. Mm-hmm. He's legitimately fighting the best guys, still getting him a good count himself. D2 wrestling, he's not getting taken down. They're going to slug. I honestly think this is a shockingly low line at minus 130. Of course, you want Usman or Magomedov, but he's a minus 2,000 favorite. What do you get out of that? Saeed Samna is live for an upset here over Vitaly Minakov at plus 220. Totally live. Yeah, totally live. So he's actually like full pro team member at American Top Team. And you do see that he's just getting better fight to fight. He just doesn't have a whole lot of fights. But the Bobby Brents fight, he won the Titan FC heavyweight title. He looked good there. The Tyrell Fortune fight, dude, he just got taken down repeatedly. Tyrell Fortune was a good collegiate wrestler. It happens. And then that last fight with Ronnie Marquez, he showed up on the scales looking good, knocked him out early in the first round. The thing with Vitaly Minakov is he's 36 years old now. He hasn't really been active for a long time. 2 fights ago, he lost to Choi Kongo in just the worst fight you've ever seen. And when she gets grinded on, he gets tired. He has no punching output. Fair. He's got lackluster cardio. Like, it's just one of these spots.
He was arguably the best like heavyweight in the world during his heyday. But yeah, that heyday was back in like 2016, 2017, and he hasn't fought since 2019. So
yeah,
that all makes sense.
And to be honest, like his heyday with Bellator, Ron Sparks, Ryan Martinez, Volkov, that one stood out pretty good at the test of time. He already had beaten Choi Kongo. All I'm saying is you can go through Peter Graham, 43 years old, DJ Lindemann, 44 years old, Josh Copeland, 38 years old, Geronimo dos Santos, 37 years old, Antonio Bigfoot Silva, 41 years old, Tony Johnson Jr., 37 years old, Choi Kongo, 44 years old, Tim Johnson, 37 years old. Like, what? All he does is fight these aged guys, and none of them are putting pressure on him. Saeed Samna is better than his record shows. He's just a live dog, is all I'm saying.
Don't
get your apple pie shit on Minakov.
If Salma can't finish Minakov, who's obviously 22-1, he's never been finished.
Yeah, that's a good point in Russia.
Are they gonna screw? Like, is he gonna get the Russian screw job? Because that would seem like a gigantic Russian screw job spot.
Yeah, you know what? You're actually very much right about that.
I smell that pie. I smell the shit in that pie. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm cutting you off too much. I know nothing about this. Yeah, hit him up with like the the perceived locks of the card and hit them up for me because I'm writing them down so I can parlay things.
Okay, well, just to scramble your brain real quick and then we'll jump into things. Wouldn't it be a lot easier for the Russian mob to back the plus 220 underdog? Oh shit, take a dive, Minikov. Or maybe they screw him on the scorecards. Could go either way, right? Tokov should roll as long as there's no fight fixing going on here. You're going to pass on that women's fight. Who else did I like? Okay, so Kirill Sildenikov.
Two Tokovs for the record.
Yeah.
Vladimir and Anatoly. You're talking about Anatoly, I think, is who should.
Well,
roll.
they should both roll. One of them's a minus 500 favorite. The other one's a minus 550 favorite. And again, looking at both of them, they should roll. One price I like is this minus 300 price tag on this Nikita Mikhailov. So I've actually made a lot of money betting Brian Moore. Brian Moore is one of the guys that I would say I got a pretty good read on him. And as thing is, he is a really nice striker, and he's a little flimsy and he doesn't have the best durability. This Russian guy is just going to put a grind on, right? So it is a 3-1 favorite, but that's going to be one of the ones you're probably going to look for. And again, doesn't look like he's fought in limited competition, but he's fought in some tough Russian level guys. His problem is he hasn't fought in 2.5 years, whereas Brian Moore competes fairly frequently. Kirill Sildenikov is known as Baby Fedor. He usually appears on Bellator or on prelims for Fedor. His entire career. Yeah, he fought for Affliction back in the day. He's kind of been fraudulent his entire career. He should win this fight, but again, at minus 265, he's not above taking a dive or something like that. And honestly, dude, I see a lot of potential dives. I like this Grachik Bozinian. He's a pretty tough guy. I hate to say it. I know we're probably going long here. What are we at? Do I have time for a quick story?
We're close to 2 hours now.
Okay, I don't have time for a quick story. I'll tell you on the Bellator preview if I get around to it.
You can tell the story. I got nowhere to be.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me bring it up here because this is not just bullshit. This is the fucking. I should have bleeped that out. I'll cut this out of the TV rerun because let's face it, no one's going to. I'll just cut this out. No one's going to care about Bellator previews. It's the day before. Okay, so just gotta bring up the right. I always have trouble sparking. Okay. This goes back to the year would have been 2014. The year's 2014. We're going to fight network. Gabe Morency's we're going to fight network. He's always good for a good time. I won't directly say the guy's name because who the hell knows. But Gabe Morency has a very good friend. Happens to be a very well-known lines maker from Costa Rica. I'll leave it at that. And he hits him up to be like, hey, man, straight up, just so you know, this Bellator 120 card is going down. And the word is they're gonna fix it. These Russians on the card are looking to fix these fights. This Bellator 120 card, just want to give you a heads up. So anyways, he tells us about, I talked to my guy. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I've heard that one before. All right, tin hat. What ends up proceeding to happen is a bunch of American fighters fight. The first one is Shakbulat Shambalayev. Okay, he fights on Fabricio Guerrero. He's a plus 350 favorite. He should walk right through this guy. His career to this point has been magnificent. He's a Bellator tournament champion. He's cast iron. He's from Dagestan. He is a very unbelievable fighter. He gets caught in the most rudimentary Kimura from guard and just lets the open tap go. Very strange situation. He never fought professional MMA ever again. 3 years after this fight, he actually got shot up in a Russian nightclub. Turns out he had Russian mob ties. The only other Russian fighter that appears on the card, we'll get to it, the next Russian that appears on the card is Alexander Volkov. Alexander Volkov actually wins his fight, which would discredit the theory, but he beats Blagoy Ivanov, who would then theoretically have the same opportunity, right? He trains with a lot of Russian fighters. He's a Bulgarian fighter. Coincidentally enough, Blagoy Ivanov ended up getting stabbed in the heart in a Bulgarian nightclub just a few, not shortly thereafter, the fight with Volkov. Both of them threw their fights. Both of them lost their fights, Paul. And both of them nearly got killed because of mob ties in the events leading afterwards. The third Russian and the last Russian that appears on the card is Alexander Shlemenko. He blew a plus 500 ticket, or he was a 6-1 favorite over Tito Ortiz. He was the promotion's middleweight champ. He moved up to 205 pounds and rolled over. It is one of the saddest performances you will ever see in your life, the way he's in this arm triangle and taps. He does not even put up no resistance. In theory, those three Russian fights were the three fixes on that card. And now I can't prove it. All I got is a theory, right? I'm just some guy with a tinfoil hat, right? Yeah, not going to get my money, pal. I'm not going to run into that problem. So I'm looking to keep very limited. Now, when the UFC goes to Moscow, I'm not going to have that same feeling. Those guys are, for the most part, UFC athletes with contracts. The UFC is going to look into it. On a Bellator card,
Well, Bang versus Kuntz, remember? Remember Bang Kuntz?
Bang versus Kuntz. Yeah, it happens. People don't want to admit it happens because they don't have stone cold evidence. But it's like, well,
that line flipped. I remember that. Like, it was that fight was like, that card started like 3 o'clock in the morning local time or something like that. And it's like, I remember like that line went from like, what was it? Leo Kuntz was like the favorite, and then it flipped. Like he was like a plus 290 underdog. I forget. I'm obviously, memory is not serving me right now. But yeah, like everything about that line movement just like screamed stink. And then he didn't follow through with the fix, right? That's what happened there. It's like Bang didn't follow through with like actually rolling over.
Yeah, so man, it sounds greasy, but how often do we look at this greasy stuff? And if you thought Las Vegas judging was bad, if you thought Texas judging was bad, if you thought Florida judging was bad, wait until somebody's family is being held captive and they better get the right name on the scorecard or they get the hose again. You don't want the hose again, man. Get the card right. And so there could be a little bit behind the scenes stuff going on, and for that reason, that Bellator card, I want to keep it limited. In fact, one of the reasons I want Timothy Johnson is I think he'll get a stoppage victory, right? These fights that go to decision,
Fair.
Yeah, you're opening yourself up for a bad time. But anyways, last week it was reversed. Didn't love the UFC, loved the Bellator. This week, I like this UFC. I don't love the Bellator. Between the two of them, hopefully we can get the right winning combinations and keep the profit train rolling.
All right, kaboom. All right, that is it for us this week, finally, after about 2 hours. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic, producer Matt, I'm Paul, saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh.